it'll turn red, and then you're going to speak into the mic. The trick with these mics is no one person can have two of these lights on. You'll hear a screech. That means someone's got to... Okay? All right, let's go. We're ready to go. Take it over, Chairman. We'll start with you. Okay.
Testing. Yep.
Test, test.
Okay, sounds like I'm on. Okay, today is Wednesday, September 17th. This is a meeting of the South Kingstown Assessment Board of Review. Roll call. Alice, are you here? Here. Brad, are you?
Yeah. Brad Heavenor, present.
Ken Monroe, present.
And David Bott is present. First order of business is approval of the minutes from the January 9th meeting. We have those right here. I'm not going to read anything. Did anybody have a chance to review them? And if so, I will entertain a motion.
I had a chance to review. I noticed one typo that we should just correct and amend the minutes. It's the spelling of the appraiser David. It's David Widman, W-I-D-M-A-N-N.
What page is that on, Brad?
That's...
Oh, sorry about that. I got it. Okay.
Sorry. So on page 2, appraiser David Whitman should be Widman, W-I-D-M-A-N-N. So I would make a motion to approve the minutes subject to correcting the typo.
We have a discussion or a second.
I'll second the motion.
Aye.
I'll figure this out by the time the meeting's over. Okay, so I'll say that again. So the first, all right, so the minutes have been approved, and they were, there was a motion by Brad and a second by Ken. And we have a unanimous vote to approve the minutes as per recommended or the change by Brad. All right, the first appeal, new business, the first appeal is Edward and Paula Bernardzik. Are they here? And if so, could you please step up to the microphone or the table there? Thank you. Good morning. Before we get going on this, yes, Wendy?
I just wanted to say you have two options. You can sit or you also have the podium, okay? So whichever you prefer.
Okay.
It is.
All right, yeah, in the past, I know we, just for the, for us to keep the agenda moving, we had a 10-minute presentation, by the appellant or by the person that was challenging the, the assessment. So is it this board's pleasure to stick with that 10 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds good. And if conversation is going, we can extend it if needed. And I would say too, I think the way we've done it in the past, we have a hearing phase, and then we close the hearing, and then we move into decision. I'd recommend that we observe the same meeting order as we normally do.
Okay, do you understand what Brad just said? Basically what we're going to do is we're going to allow the presenter 10 minutes to discuss or to present their situation. And then typically what we do is we'll discuss it a little bit with you, and then at the end of the meeting, the board will start going through each one of these agenda items and discussing it amongst ourselves, and then we'll make a decision. So if you want to stay here until the end of the meeting, you can, but just what we're trying to do is just get everybody to present their case, and then we discuss it, and it's a public meeting, so anybody can stay as long as they want. So we're not going to make a, we're not going to make a decision, while you're up here at the, presenting your, your case. Okay.
I live in South Shore Village, and basically there's 4 models to choose from when you build your home there. And we chose the Nantucket, and I guess, am I allowed to ask questions and you answer, or I just talk? Oh, okay. My first question is the assessment based at all on the purchase price? Because as these Nantuckets were built, there were less and less available, and the prices have increased. But the current Nantuckets in South Shore Village are appraised or assessed quite a bit less. And I don't know if I'm comparing apples to apples by saying this Nantucket is the same square feet, exact same builder specs, grade level. There are options you could pick when you build, but in general, is that a fair comparison, even though it's a 2024 and mine was 2025, and therefore $300,000 more purchase price? Is it fair to compare the assessments?
Wendy, would you like to try to answer that?
So the appraisers, or the appraisal that we have, that you have before you, is mass appraisal. So the way mass appraisal works, it's all sale-based. The answer is yes. The market price of the latest model selling, that's how mass appraisal's done. So it's all sales from 12/31 of 2024. So all of the sales at South Shore Village and any other condos in town, all that data is collected and analyzed, and then anything that's superbly low or high would be brought in, but really it's like reasonability, and that's how the assessment is set. Of course, there is other things that factor in, the year of construction, there's depreciation, materials. Does that answer?
I have a big mouth.
No, and just so the assessment was set by the assessor's office. Just to
Right.
clarify, we might turn to the assessor to get information. So if it has to do with assessment methodology, that's the town assessor's office. That's why we toss things over for her to just explain
I
the
see.
methods. But we're here to hear your
Okay.
your case, and you're welcome to to present to us what you've got, and we'll listen.
Okay.
And kind of take it into account.
All
So
right.
sometimes we ask Wendy to help out with just questions of how
No,
things
yes,
work.
I get it.
But
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I did submit 4 other Nantuckets and their assessed value. I did notice mine, for some reason, has a higher grade, average plus 20. It has a good plus 10 on the building attributes. I'm not sure why when the others don't. And they're also the same builders. If you look at either of the Fescue Lane or Chickadee or 496 South Shore Village, that one was even built after mine, and it has an average plus 20 grade on the second page.
Yeah, I looked through this. I noticed the same thing. So what's going on here? It looks like you're kind of pointing out a disproportionate assessment.
Yes.
So, right, because you're assessed for around 1.1 million. you also purchased the home for 1.1 million. So
Correct.
you're not claiming necessarily overvaluation.
Correct.
Because you bought the house at a price similar to your assessment.
Right.
But you're noticing that other homes with the
Correct.
same style, Nantucket, is that the
Correct.
the
That's
same
the model
model,
number.
are assessed in the $700,000 and $800,000
Correct.
range. And so that's a good question. And I think that the one difference I noticed was the, and I'm saying this for the benefit of the board, because I think I just looked at it this morning again, so it's a little fresh in my mind.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's slight differences in size. You might have a more finished basement. They have less of a finished basement in some of the assessment comparables that were shared. But yeah, it looks like the operative difference is the rating under I forget how this grade.
Yes.
Yeah, you're good plus 10 and they're average plus 20.
Correct. And one's even built after ours. I
Right.
mean, even if you compare the building specs from 2020, 2020, they're the same data sheet that the office gives out, but even if you go after ours, I would assume at least the same building specs.
So all of these units, are these condo units or
They're
they're
called
standalone?
standalone condos.
Right.
We have an HOA.
And they were all built by the same
They come
developer?
from, they're pre-built, come from South Kingstown, I believe. They're just come in pieces and they're built on site. Or put together on site.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the big difference is the supply. There's very few lots left in the complex that will fit in Nantucket. It's a longer home, so there's only maybe one more lot available that you can build in Nantucket. So in my mind, that's the reason. We moved from another Nantucket in the same complex last year, and we paid $690 for that one. And we moved 2 years later and paid 1.1.
Right.
So I based on, I don't know the real rules, but that seems like it's more of a supply and demand, which is what's increasing the market value.
Right. That's the other question I noticed, because I believe you put in the sale prices for some of the other units
I
that
did,
you
yes.
noticed. So they have sale prices in the $500,000 and $600,000 range, and those are now assessed in the 800s roughly. Even though they apparently reflect the same unit or same model.
Yes, it's the Nantucket. That's what we all
Right.
have.
So, if the sale price difference is really attributable to market forces, supply
Right.
and demand, then yours should be assessed for 1.1, but also the others in your development
Correct.
should also see the same kind of increase.
Correct. It's really just a
theoretically.
parity thing. I'm not going
Right.
to argue that our assessment's wrong, but if we're all paying a piece of the pie, it seems like it should be fair.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's kind of the crux of the disproportionate assessment. And of course, we can only handle what's in front of us, so we can't go to those other 4 units and try to get theirs
Right.
increased or anything. We have to kind of deal with the case we've got
Right.
before us, so.
No, I definitely don't want to increase any of the neighbors. That won't make me very popular.
No, thank you. And I'm talking too much, but what I'm trying to do is just summarize what
No, I appreciate it. That's exactly the situation.
My understanding of what you're bringing
yes.
forth.
Yep.
So Paul, if I could ask you, how come you changed from the one that you were in to the other one?
Because my husband discovered that he likes golf, and you can see hole 5 a little better than hole 9, so we had to start over.
As you purchased the first one, did you just go with the base model, or did you go in there and do improvements? I've sold several of them in there, so I know that you can go in there and you can do
Absolutely.
improvements, which add to the cost of it and add to the value of
It
it.
definitely does. And the first time around, it was a base of 5 something, and we paid 120 in options.
Okay.
120,000. Second time around, it was almost identical.
Okay.
About 120,000 in options from the base. And some of the options are not really optional, they're things you want in your home. But,
understand.
But they managed to.
But you did do that, you did the base, and then you added on some of the improvements?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I mean, I think we could maybe dig into this a little bit deeper, because I've got some questions for the assessor's office, but maybe that might be something that we can just kind of dig into in the decision-making phase, because I'll just kind of pepper you with some questions about what the differences might be. But I don't know if we need to do all that right now. You know, I think we just want to hear.
It's the pleasure of the board,
Yeah.
whatever you prefer.
That would be what I would say. So, yeah, we'll come back around to your case at the end when we make our
Okay.
decision, and there might be some discussion with the assessor to help us understand how they arrived
I
at these
appreciate it. Okay,
assessments.
I'll hang
So,
around. Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much. Next appeal is number 4. Michael Comandorti, is he here?
Good morning, Board. My name is Michael Commendator. I live on 104 Rocky Brook Way in Peacedale. I'm here to have the assessment board take a look at my property and hopefully give me a break on my taxes. I've got a few points to make. I supplied you guys with a spreadsheet, and on that spreadsheet is just a variety of tax increases, possible decreases across the town, and I'll go through them quickly. First one is my property. My property value went up 52%, which seems to be really common for the condos in South Kingston, which made my taxes increase 23%. 23%, that's very, very extreme. I did a comparison of other Peacedale condos, not Wakefield condos, Peacedale. Part of your property is also location, not just how your property looks, how much money you have into it, location. I live in Peacedale. That is a lower income of South Kingston. I gave you a list of approximately 10 condos, maybe 11, and their increases, their property tax increases. You can see that in front of you. Also, I gave you a list of some homes. You guys should recognize some of the addresses on those homes. The homes, not just yours, but most of the homes in South Kingston, your property taxes did not go up. The values went up, but the actual, because the rate was adjusted to reflect that, of the 5 assessment board members, there was one property was a lot. The other 4 properties, pretty much a zero increase in property taxes. Again, mine went up 23%. And underneath that is commercial property. Grand Isle Drive, which is the apartment complex up in South County Commons, their property tax did not change at all. That reflects a $55,000 decrease in taxes paid. I'm not sure if they are allowed subsidies or however that works. I did not have time to investigate that. But I did not see a property tax increase on Grand Isle Drive. 2 other properties on Old Tower Hill. One would be the Shaw's building. Other would be the rental, the storage unit building. Their property taxes also decreased. I'm not sure which is one, or the other, but one went down 4,000, the other went down 18,000. This is pretty factual basis on the tax rate and the assessment. Again, I like to stress the unfairness of taxation based on the businesses, homes, and condos. Condos got destroyed this year. I don't understand why. Condos seem to be the highest producing income properties in the town. There's 4 units in my building. my building alone, you're getting $12,000 a year in income taxes on just one building. That's pretty good income for the town. It's on less than a quarter of an acre piece of property. I'm sorry, it's $12,000 a month. Let me back that up again. I'm a little nervous here because I haven't been in front of a crowd in a while. My building alone produces $12,000 a year in taxes. It's 4 units. There's approximately 15 buildings in my complex. That gives the town $180,000 a year on property taxes for a condo association that's less than 4 acres in size. I stressed Peacedale. I also use Zillow as a source for property valuations. Zillow is accepted practice for property assessments. They've been used when I refinanced my loan. They were used by Westerly Credit Union. That is a fact. I use Zillow in calculating the actual assessment versus what the town is assessing my property on. If you go back to the spreadsheet I gave you, the town is assessing my property at $408,000. Zillow estimates it, or the Zestimate, as they call it, is $441,000. My property is 93% assessed to the Zillow number. If you go down to the section where the homes are, there's one home on Winchester Drive that was assessed at $810,000. Zillow has it in as $965,000. That property is only assessed at 84%. Another property on Mulberry Street is assessed at $600,900. Zestimate on that is $690,200. That's an 87% assessment. Last one is Carriage Lane. Town has it assessed at $655,100. Zillow has that at $790,900. That's an 83% assessment adjustment. Extremely unfair. The condos in the town of South Kingston are getting destroyed this year. 23% increase it's unacceptable. I'm here to plead to the board that in today's economy, a 23% increase on anything is just it's very, very difficult. It's a hardship for people nowadays to get that kind of an increase. So if you can check out what I gave you and have some fairness applied to my taxes, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Comments, questions from the board?
Michael, thank you for speaking. Sorry you're nervous. Just a couple things that I will tell you just as a local real estate person here. As they do this, as a condo, you're compared to other condos. It's not to commercial, it's not to homes. It's an apples to apples comparisons as much as possible. And if in 2024, Rocky Brook is in general, if they're selling, say, at, hypothetically speaking, 400 or whatever the number is, and your neighbors are selling for that, then that's how the vision or the town or whatnot is going to look at you. They're going to be looking at it from a comparison that way. So if your neighbors are all selling for 400, they're going to look at you and say, are you better or worse than that? And that's kind of what the charge of this board will be, is to kind of look to make sure you're being treated fairly compared to your neighbors. Again, the apples to apples comparisons as much as possible. That's kind of like the first leg of it. So I will give you an example. One thing we had a huge problem in years past is things like Roy Carpenter's and Mary Carpenter's. All of a sudden they were selling for way more than they used to. And it's reminding me of what you're saying. If condo sales are becoming popular and selling more, then the assessment is going to unfortunately go higher. So just so you understand how we're going to look at it, we're going to compare you to your neighbors and other ones. So your condo comparisons, we can take a look at all that stuff, but that is the number one thing, just so I'm hoping I'm helping you understand how you are going to be assessed.
I agree with you 100% on that.
Yeah, okay.
My question is the validity of VGSI. They're not even close to Zestimate, and Zestimate uses the same factors when they calculate this estimate.
Okay.
They're not even close. Not even.
Yeah.
There's no comparison.
I'm not a
I gave you
Zillow person
examples
per
of that.
se, but what I'll look at is to what did your neighbors sell for in that area, and then even if it's now, we try to kind of figure that out. So if your neighbors did sell in the 400 or whatever the range would be, that's going to be the number one comparison that the town or vision is going to go by. So we will look at that. But I just wanted to explain to you how that's the data that we need to look at. We can't look at commercial and things of that nature and do that comparisons.
I think you should look at it because that goes into the validity of VGSI. If you have a $25 million property and they did not get adjusted, there's something wrong with VGSI. They had the exact valuation from the prior year. So they are not looking at commercial properties. I'm saying VGSI is not a legitimate or fair practice because they're not taking into consideration the whole town. I have a 23% increase in property taxes. That is uncalled for.
Okay, thank you.
Wendy, I don't know if you have any information on sales from that development or some information on just the differences in percent increase across property types or locations or anything that might give us some more information to help us understand some of the changes from the last assessment.
I have both. I don't know if you want me to go into it now briefly or at the decision making, but I will say briefly, there were 66 condo sales across town. There were 2 specifically at Rocky Brook. Specifically at Rocky Brook, it was, bear with me, this is really tiny, 106 for 383, and then at 118, and that sale was 413, but keep in mind that's not comparative to just that neighborhood, it's collectively all of the other condos. I have the spreadsheet here, I can run it down if you want to look at it after, but the average condo increase for this reval was 40%.
I have a higher number than that, thank you. I have over 50%.
And then also to speak about the Zillow, the 411, and we had you at 408, 93%. We collectively as a town are at a 94% assessment to sales ratio. So that was proof that is what we're at.
That's not what my stats and what I gave you shows. That shows homeowners are on an average of 85%. Condos are much higher.
Brad, to help answer your question, there was a condo that went on the market for $340 during that year, and it ended up selling at $413. So you can see where just the incredible demand has gone up for condos. So that's a huge over. When something goes on the market for $340, generally speaking, doesn't sell for that much more. But that's what happened in one of the examples here as I look up some data.
I have to say the homes do the same thing. The homes are outbid by the asking price.
And I understand, but I respect your opinion, but we cannot go by that. That's just not something
I gave you enough information to see how it is an unfair practice to condos.
We just cannot use sales data from homes and commercial properties. We have to compare apples to apples. That's
Okay, I just
what
want
we
you
can
to
do.
23% increase in property taxes. I want that to stick with you, please, because that is extremely unfair, especially in today's economy. You know, I know the state only allows, I believe, a 4% increase overall, and I believe the town kept it pretty much as a 0, not pertaining to each property, but an overall increase in property taxes. I believe that's how that works. Am I wrong? The state will not allow more than a 4% increase.
This board has absolutely nothing to do with your property taxes. It only has to do with is the assessment on your property fair. Then the town, they decide what the mill rate's going to be and all of that stuff. So that's not a charge to this board. We are only here to look at the value, and then how you fit into the puzzle of the town is beyond our pay grade. We have nothing to do with that. So the 23, any of that stuff, we just want to make sure that your property valuation that the town has given you is fair. That's the only thing we're able to do, and I'm happy to, if you have any more comments on that. You know, whether the increase, decrease in taxes, that's not a factor we even look at. We just want to make sure that you and your neighbors are all being treated fairly from that perspective.
Okay. All right, I would like you to see if the commercial is being acted fairly. I mean, a zero increase on a property that I gave you is a fact. It's right on your property records for the town. Overall, VGSI is not, it's not a worthy product. And that's all I got to say. I just asked this board to review my request, and hopefully you'll come out with a positive decision.
Okay,
All
thank
set.
you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
I'm not sure if you want me to speak to the commercial, but that was a settlement, and we did lock that
Yeah,
assessment.
why don't you, Wendy, go ahead.
Just so that you know, that's why there was no increase.
there
It
is
was
a
part of
subsidy
the
there.
settlement. They went to court, and the town did settle with them, and part of the settlement was to freeze their assessment. Next reval, we clean slate, and it'll be different then.
Okay, just for 1 year, and they got a $55,000
For
cut?
for not 1
in-
year, one reval cycle.
Okay.
So
they-
next statistical, in 3 years from now, that will be not on the table.
Okay, all right, so I just would like to make this as a statement, and then I'll be on my way. That's a $55,000 decrease in property taxes for that property where rents are at record highs. Give me a break. That's all I can say. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you. Next appeal is number 6, Brett and Ann Harrington.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll be very short and sweet. I am not here to, I didn't appeal my assessment. My process was a little different. When I had my original assessment, and they said, you know, if you have questions or whatever, I had a question because on the prior assessment, I spoke to one of the assessors, and we were talking about I lived on a private road and, you know, that type of stuff. And I just wanted to see if there was anything that they were taking into consideration. And when I was talking to the assessor, I brought up the fact that I'm less than 100 feet from Route 1. And she says, oh, she goes, well, we'll give you a noise, you know, adjustment for that. So I said, well, going forward, will this be on my assessment? She says, well, you should check. So what happened when was this new assessment came in that I wasn't appealing, I just asked, I spoke to them and I said, is that still there? And they said, yes, it is. I said, okay, thank you. Well, about 3 weeks later, I got a letter from the town increasing my value from their assessment, you know, $31,700. Not that, you know, that's not my point. My point is I want the assessment to be where they originally assessed it. That phone call cost me that. And then when I came back to the town and I asked about it, and they looked at it and they said, well, let me look at it. And they came back and said, well, it was increased because you have central air and you don't have forced hot air, you have baseboard. And shaking my head, I don't have central air in my house. I have mini splits. And to argue the point that forced hot air is less valuable than central air, I would argue the other direction, basically saying if I had forced hot air, I'd have the duct work and I'd have actually central air in my home, which I do not. So on the basis of that, I'm simply here to say, bring my assessment back to the original $489,200, and they, you know, after discussion, you know, they had bumped it up to $520 900, and then they sent me a letter basically saying, well, no, we'll kick it back to 513.3. And I'm saying, no, I'm here to say, bring me back to the 489.2, and I'll be on my way. That's basically it. I think, so the bottom line is, if I don't make that phone call asking about my, just to make sure that my noise thing is still there, I'm looking at an assessment of 489.2. So was penalized for that phone call. That's simple. That was simply it. That wasn't arguing my original assessment. Just what the phone call ended up costing me is what I'm arguing. And I also threw in, you'll see 15 Lab Hill Road, which actually, it says Central Air and on that property, but for whatever it's worth. Their evaluation was a little less than mine initially, which I'm not arguing that, but you can compare it there. So that's basically in a nutshell, guys. You have any questions?
Right, and just so I understand, so you dealt with vision, I guess, when the original assessment came out, the new assessment.
Correct.
You asked
correct.
a question,
Yep.
and then they addressed your question, and then you got a revised assessment that was
3 weeks later, I got
significantly higher than the
Yeah,
original
it was 31,000.
assessment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Do we have any notes on that? Like what went into that, Wendy? Because I can understand why that would be a frustrating experience for a
I
taxpayer.
mean, it's like you're penalized for making a phone call. Don't do it again.
I hear your frustration. It's one of the prime sources of frustration, and we call it discovery. Once we don't know what we don't know, and once we know, we can't unsee it. And that doesn't mean me in our office, but it also includes the reval company. I just wanted to clarify, when Mr. Harrington had said he spoke with one of the assessors, not in our office. He spoke with the project manager during the vision hearings, licensed appraiser. Okay, so I just wanted to just clarify that. And normally, I'm having a tech issue where I would have to run downstairs and go on a desktop because half of my assessment history screen is not visible at all from here, so I apologize for that. But yes, there is a way that I can go into visit history. Everything's accounted for, and I can see, unfortunately I can't see the notes unless I run downstairs, or we can discuss it at another time, but there was a hearing change on March 3rd, and that was the result of, that was, February, March, April, we were doing hearings, and that's kind of when we scrub the data, and I get a hit at the analysis, and that's when I, in the capacity of the assessor, do what's best for the town. If I see something drastically high or low, I have the authority to bring it into scale and make sure everybody has the same or reasonability. So that did happen. There was a change. This all happened, and once Mr. Harrington appealed with me, I did revert it back to a partial. And I just want to just let you know, we did notice just sitting here that we don't normally have, every reval's different. I've inherited other opinions of value that aren't my own. So I'm looking at this card, and I just want to let you know, Mr. Harrington, you have a sauna on here, and we've kind of gone away with like lean-tos, things that we've valued before. We're not going to. So I will let you know if there's room for removing the sauna on your outbuilding on your card. Every time we look at something, it's something else. So just, we want to do what's fair for everybody. Yeah. If we see something that's incorrect or where it's an old mythology that, it's a big town, we do the best we can with all of the stakeholders that come into a reval. So I just want to let you know that I noticed that.
Yeah,
and that was the reason for the initial reduction of value, total assessed value originally after the 489, back and forth, there was an increase. Some things that were correct, incorrect. We brought Mr. Harrington from 52900 to 513.3, and he did receive an abatement for a value of $7,600 for that the partial split, and that abatement was for $67.94.
So it seems to me like the phone call brought me from a administrative assessment to a full assessment, And again, I just keep going like, okay, you learned your lesson, don't do it again. When we send your assessment, don't question anything, So, and again, if that's the case, take a look at, you guys have 15 Lab Hill Road in front of you, so did they, I don't know if their assessment stayed the same, or did they get a lovely letter like me? saying that we're gonna, raise it, the thing. So basically, that's it, guys. That's why I'm here, okay? Had no intentions of challenging the first assessment. It wasn't until I got that lovely letter 3 weeks later saying, we'll throw on another 31 change onto your assessment. All right, guys? Thanks. Thanks for your time.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
No, but it would be helpful for us, and maybe when we get in the discussion phase, what I want to know is just what was the cause of the $30,000 bump after the hearing with Vision, where that came from, the timing of it. It would just be helpful for me to just take a look at so I can kind of understand, like, ABC,
No
what
problem.
happened.
What might be helpful, just because I think this might, if it may happen again, is we'll take a break when we go to the decision making. I'll run downstairs, do my thing. We'll take a 10, 15 minute, and then we'll come back if that's okay with you.
Good plan. Next item on the agenda is appeal number 7. Joshua and Barden and Michaela Williams, are you folks here?
There we go. Thanks. Good morning. My apologies for not submitting any additional documentation 72 hours prior. I only received this letter last Thursday, so I guess I would have had to have my additional documentation submitted the following day on Friday. And there was a death in the family, so that wasn't happening. So my core issue goes to how the properties were defined and the multipliers attached to those, which I had reached out to back in July. My home is designated both as a split level and a single level home, which I understand there were multipliers for. So when I compare the gross area of my home to my neighbors and the dollar per square foot, so if I take into effect 71 West Wind, 72 West Wind, 151 West Wind, who all have a gross area of about 20% larger than my home, I actually have a 20% higher evaluation. So their average square footage is about $85 per square foot, where mine is about 103. So theirs are about 4,400 square feet. Ours is listed at 3,752. But then our home has a higher evaluation. So if you could explain how, again, we're single level, but both single level, that doesn't make sense inherently, and what those multipliers were that are yielding a higher value to our home.
Right, and those addresses that you just, the neighbors, I don't have that in
Adjacent
front of me.
neighbors. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michaela, could you give us the numbers again? I don't see that on our paperwork of your neighbors.
Yeah, so it's 71 West Wind.
Mm-hmm.
Their gross area is 4,420 square feet. Their home evaluation, just the property itself, is 371,000. There is 72 West Wind. Their gross area is listed as 4,429 square feet. Home value, 394,000. Ours is 3,752, and it's listed as 389,000. And then, 151 gross area, 4,244 square feet. Home value, 350,000. So I believe it was the multipliers of those designations of both single level and split level that yielded the higher value on our house.
Right, this is, so, I don't have the other, I can't compare because I don't have the other properties in front of me.
Sure.
But I see,
You can visibly see that's not a single-level home.
right. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand, and maybe Wendy, so the style being split level, does that make a difference here? And then, so now we have one story as stories, and that is because there's a finished basement, there's like a partially, there's a finished basement that's partially above grade level.
That's correct, Brad. I just want to let you know, the style, during mass appraisal, there's certain buckets that things are placed into, and one of the rating or multipliers that you're referring to is style. So split levels for this reval, old rate multiplier, this doesn't really mean much, but the old rate was 169, new rate 225. What really matters is a percentage change. So we'll just talk, when I talk about a multiplier, I'll talk about it as a percentage change. The split levels went up 33%. Now, it depends on what you're comparing your style to. You would, in theory, compare it to other split levels, which is the comps I provided, but I understand the argument being that is it a split level? So, I think the discussion is, what do you think it is? As we obviously...
I'm not sure that matters.
It matters to some degree, and like colonials went up 23%, but bungalows up 33%. So style, year construction. If you give me a colonial as a comp, but there's like half depreciated because it's an older home. You can just look at the building, but it's a little bit more complex.
It's interesting that style is being taken into consideration and not condition. So you're saying, we've been talking about apples to apples. I've heard that term thrown around a lot this morning. You can't really talk about apples to apples when you're doing a mass evaluation. So on one hand, you're saying, oh, we're taking style into consideration, but we're not taking condition into consideration. So I'm sorry, I just can't get behind the rationale on that.
I do think, like, I see that condition is taken into account. So, and I wonder, and I don't have the other assessments of your neighbors in front of me to understand the differences, because I was wondering to myself if there was, there's the style I think exists for comparative purposes. The town tries to compare colonials to colonials, like that's like a starting point. But then quality, I think, is another factor. Like under grade, you're at average plus 10. I don't know what the neighbors are at. And then the condition really is under the depreciation area. So this house is depreciated. It's effective year built of 1992, 32% depreciation.
Yes.
And that's where the assessor, I think...
The original structure was built in 1982.
Right.
And then the addition was built in 1992. So I don't know if that's taken...
Yeah, I think that the effective year built becomes, they're just estimating, the age of the property and the condition of the property based on any upgrades or, so it's newer than a building that was built in 1982. It's nicer, it's in better condition than a building that was built in 1982 and just left. So I think that's how they're trying to apply condition, as my understanding of the methodology. And I wonder what the neighbors have for depreciation, and whether that explains the difference between the assessments.
Just as an FYI, collectively during a reval year, every property has a depreciation every reval across the board.
And just to go back to your question in regards to condition of my adjacent neighbors' homes, they're in much better condition than our homes. So another issue I had was with the land evaluation. So again, our land is 0.77 of an acre. Again, 72 West Wind is also 0.77 of an acre. Our land abuts now 5, potentially 6 different neighbors, and then behind those neighbors is 108, where across the street, 77 West Winds does not abut anything. It has 2 adjacent properties looking into it, and then it's just woods. So when you had cited that there was like a right-of-way, I was told that we also have a right-of-way on our property, and I'm not sure where the right-of-way would be on 72 Westwind because there's like a bank of like spruce trees. So there isn't, and there's trees on either side, so I'm not sure where that right-of-way would be for 72. But I was told that there was an easement / right-of-way on our property when we purchased it. And yeah, again, 72, their land assessment was $27,000 less than ours.
Sorry, I can see that, that, we have that, and that looks like that was documented in their assessment of Narragansett Electric right-of-way. I don't have any more information on that, but I can see where that's at some point was taken into account for their land value.
Okay.
That's correct. Mr. Heavener, there's a Narragansett Electric right-of-way adjustment for the
72.
.77 acres compared to the exact same acreage as 81 Westwind. So the condition factor normally would be a 1.0, so it's a reduction of 0.10. The condition's 0.19 for that right-of-way.
So is there not a right-of-way that was listed on 81? Because that's what I was told when we purchased the house, that there was an easement to access. There's like a pond / water behind our home. And if you like zoom out on the map and go back, yeah, you see that body of water behind us? So we were told that there was like a right-of-way / easement along the property line, so that in the event that access would be needed to like deal with whatever water situation was happening.
We don't have anything on the books for this. We'd have to look at the deed and unpack that. And we don't give reductions for all easements. They're specifically for rights-of-way for electric or, in this case, water. We would look at it. It would be consideration. At this time, that was not presented, and we don't have that here before us today.
Right, and is that the kind of thing that the homeowner could just deal with administratively with your office? If
Correct. At any
so
time during the year, we would
bring in evidence
consider
of
this.
the right-of-way, and your office would make an adjustment. Okay.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Other comments, questions? Next item on the agenda is number 8. Todd and Janet Cambio, are they present?
So I couldn't get these to you ahead.
Okay.
That one has actual photos, these just have copies of the photos.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You saw from there that I pushed the wrong one.
Okay, so our home was demoed in 2022, and the new home was completed in 2023, and it was assessed at that time. And then, less than a year later, it was reassessed and almost doubled. And so we met with someone from Vision Appraisal in March, and she uncovered a couple of things. One was the square footage was a little off, and the other was that our home was assigned the style custom. And she asked us some questions, and we answered them, and she said, "It does not sound like you have a custom home." So she said she didn't have the authority to remove that label, and that she would bring it back, and we would be informed on whether it would be changed. We got the re-eval, and it was adjusted for the square footage error, but not for the label of custom. So what I did here is, in the first packet, I requested the definitions that Vision Appraisal uses for the style of home, and I believe that we have a Cape Cod style home. It's situated vertically on the property, so from the front you wouldn't think it was a Cape, but if you walk along the sides, it's your typical Cape with an attached garage. We have slanted ceilings upstairs. It's a half-story. So I highlighted there the definition of a custom home: formal resident, specific architectural drawing, extensive use of high-end materials, and workmanship. So I followed that with a detailed list of things that my home does not have that would make it a custom home. The plans that you see were taken from a book, and then the architect just enlarged them and added the garage on for us. The photos are of the house, interior and exterior, and I also included some evaluation reports of Cape-style homes. A couple of them are situated vertically like ours is. The others don't look like your average Cape, but they're assigned Cape-style home. And then I also made a list of the cost of our home when we were building it. I have the receipts here. We spent approximately $616,000 building the home, and on Vision Appraisal, the replacement cost is listed at $1.5 million. And then lastly, I took my neighbors' homes and divided by the square footage, and you can see what they're paying per square foot in taxes and what we are paying in square foot in taxes. And I also took nearby homes, which were fairly new, and also showed what they are paying for square footage in taxes per square foot. And ours is basically double or more than double. And then I included all of the evidence of those homes also in that packet.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So I'm looking at that sheet. So so the price per square foot, the 615 is square foot.
Mm-hmm.
Is that is the building assessment of 1.51 million divided by square footage?
Yes.
So that's your price per square foot of the building improvements,
yes,
right?
that's what we're paying in taxes per square foot.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That helps.
And I'm not sure if it had anything to, well, obviously my argument is about the label of custom, but I'm not sure, since the home was evaluated in 2023, November, and then because we were up for a re-eval, the town was up for a re-eval, it was evaluated again less than a year later and almost doubled in.
So in 2023, we were evaluated at 1.39. In 2024, we were evaluated at 2.27.
No, yeah.
And it was a new construction home when they assessed it in 23.
But the main argument here is that it was assigned the label custom, and by definition, we do not live in a custom home.
And that was a change from the 23 valuation to the next one?
To be honest with you, I don't know.
Okay.
I did not, when we got the new evaluation after the house was built, I just assumed my taxes were going to go up. Obviously, we went from an very old home, and so I never knew about the style of the home until I met with the woman. We met with the woman from Vision Appraisal, and that's when I realized it. So evidently, I've been paying taxes on a custom home from the day it was built, I'm assuming, and
She couldn't tell what it was termed as when we first met with Vision Appraisal. She didn't know whether it was, she didn't know what the original assessment was
she didn't.
classified as, whether it was custom or not. So she questioned why in the first assessment in '23, did they not have a classification? And then where did they come up with this classification in '24? So that's where the $1 million increase came.
Right, it could have been that. I know sometimes when there's partially completed construction, there could be some impact there depending on the timing of but that sometimes creates some flux when something's in the process and they've got an assessment date.
Right.
But is it true that, is custom a new style? So that custom has been used before?
It's been used, and the same definition for custom for the last reval.
Right.
Can I ask you just a quick question, because I'm actually on our permitting system now. Did you keep the old foundation?
No, we
Okay,
did not.
I just
That's
wanted
why
to make
we-
sure we had
But
it
it's
coded
the s-
correctly, that was all.
Basically the same footprint of the last
Okay,
house.
I just wanted to make sure I didn't, I'm always like,
The
trying to
footprint
dig,
of the
trying to dig. I
house-
was pretty sure that was
The
correct.
footprint of the house is almost identical to the previous home. And we, when you talk about the foundation, that's the reason why we decided to rebuild, because the home was built in 1772, and then throughout the centuries, additions were put on, and some had a foundation, and some areas had no foundation, which we didn't know until, so that's prompted us. So every contractor that we had 4 contractors come in separately, and they all said, we can do something with this, but it'll be more cost effective, because once you start lifting the house, tearing it apart, you're not gonna know what you're gonna find. So that's what prompted us to, we thought it'd be more cost effective to rebuild in the long run.
But I also wanted to point out, if the pictures that I sent, if you look at that side view where the garage is, you can clearly see that it's a Cape-style home. It has a Cape roof and an attached garage.
Yeah, so when I found that, I Googled side entrance Cape. And then this popped up, and I said, geez, this, I measured it out, and I'm saying, it's unbelievable that this footprint matches basically what I had already. So I did not have to disrupt more of the property.
The only thing we did was made it vertical on the property rather than horizontal, as the older home was.
Which I was able to do online, because they gave you that option to reverse it.
Right, and so you kind of got the floor plan, you like purchased plans online, or you had plans online that you passed off to a design?
These are the plans that were online. It was a online book.
Got it.
And then we obviously needed to get them enlarged, and we wanted to add a garage on because this house did not have a garage.
Right. No, that's actually, it's all very helpful.
And you can see the upstairs rooms, that it's a Cape style because of the ceiling and wall.
Excuse me, when was the house built?
2022, 2023.
To 2023.
We moved in.
November of 2023.
November of '23. 23?
Yes, because we've been there 2 years, yes. Yeah.
What's the deal with custom as a style? Like, and I only, like, I ask because I think this is going to come up in other hearings. Because, so to me, a style is colonial, ranch, Cape. Custom isn't a style.
It's the gray area that we live in as assessors. It is very difficult to pinpoint a custom. They really are party of one. Custom, it's a wide definition. like I said, we've got some on the books I've inherited, and I went through every single custom field card for this particular reval to get an understanding of customs, and I actually have more questions now than I did before. So I understand the confusion, but we have to work with that definition that we have. So it's really in the realm of what's a custom. So that's why they're here before you today, because you have a good point.
No,
I'm just
and-
not sure. We've got the custom plans, we've got the custom builders, so we left it where it was, but I think the discussion of, is it a custom, is still on the table.
So it does
It'll be
say
up to you guys to tell us.
extensive use of high-end materials and workmanship. Just to let you know, I don't have any imported marble. One of my tiles came off Amazon. I shopped at Home Depot, Lowe's. There are no high-end materials in this home.
Well, when we met with Vision Appraisal, the woman from Vision Appraisal,
She
she asked us many questions about what is determines a custom home, and it all had to do with interior amenities, which we didn't have.
Right. The concern, and this is my concern, is that when you put custom as a style, but you're somehow capturing elements of quality, which is a separate adjustment in your calculations, it seems like you risk double hitting a taxpayer. Like, I would like to consider quality of the build separate from style. And here, if we're saying custom is a style and somehow the base price bakes in actual custom homes, and then we're also applying an adjustment for quality, then like that's the concern. And the question I have is, like, what is the base price difference for custom versus Cape? Is it that significant that it's going to blow up someone's assessment if they get called a custom when they're not?
She told me yes.
I have that answer right now. I knew you were going to ask it, so I'll park that for just a moment. All right, we'll just answer it. I'm sorry. But back to the custom definition, it really is exactly that definition. And what I want the town and everyone to understand is it's been difficult in many industries, the after-COVID world, and unfortunately, I'm not sure we'll ever recover from that, and we just have to almost move on. And as the assessor at the helm of the ship, trying to figure out what's going to work for us moving forward. This is something that we've always used collectively as the town. That's always been the definition, and that's what Vision uses in other municipalities as well. I'm not saying that I like it any more than anyone here does. I'd like it to be a little less gray, and one of the thoughts that I've had moving forward for the next statistical and leading up to the full is, do we need some midpoints, like a custom 1, 2, 3, and that is all things that, this is the exercise, right, that we are scrubbing to get to move past this. And the other issue with COVID, when we ran that full reval in 21, is that we couldn't get in the houses. So it's very difficult how many years later, moving forward, to really establish is it or isn't. So I'm glad that we're having the discussion now as to what that is and what could it be moving forward. Does it make sense now? Does it make sense moving on? So that being said, we're going to keep having this discussion regarding customs, and they did go up significantly due to some sales for custom homes south of Route 1. So if you had a custom north of Route 1, this was there's always a problem child in every reval, and customs was it for this year. So just to go back to the difference, it is significant. If I were to do the only thing and change it from a custom style to a Cape, it would bring the total value from 2,121,100 down to 1,439,100. That's a value change of $682,000 for that style. It is significant. The average increase for customs was, I don't want to shoot off, 65%. I did bring most of them down in the 50-ish range to accommodate for the sticker shock.
Right, and I can imagine so I can see the need for custom, because in this town, we have people that are building wonderful homes, like at a very high cost. But the risk is we don't want to be dragging in people that simply obtain plans, work with an architect, and built, a very nice home, but that's not like a super luxury home. So we have with that, yeah, that's fine. And I think that we can get in. Maybe we get into this in a later phase, but it's a question of style, but to me, it's also a question of, like, if it's a cape, but maybe it's a nice cape, or, like, we can make grade adjustments within it to say that, okay, maybe
have
it's,
a custom cape.
maybe it's
You can
plus
have
10
a
for the grade, rather than bang them with the style, which to me,
This all
Yeah.
happened during the reval. After the analysis, I was like, oh boy, what are we going to do moving forward? Because the increase was so minor before COVID that it didn't really come into play, and now all of these things that the customs went up, I think almost 50% for the last reval, but you didn't really hear too much of it. There was other things going on. So here we are. We got to come up with something collectively moving forward, and I agree. I think that's going to be something that comes into play leading up to the full reval because of what's happening in this town, and it is growing fast. So there's the condos that's all being developed, and so all collectively there's we call them beefed up capes, Cape 1, Cape 2, custom, it's significant. So that is something that we are going to consider moving forward. So for now, for this cycle, now that we've sort of discovered this after the fact, anyone who comes before you, this is all on the table.
Who was your contractor?
It was Bridgeview Construction. It was a single person
Bridgeview, okay.
that owned it, yeah.
and I guess this is why this process exists, to kind of try to catch cases that kind of slip in between some kind of a crack.
The analogy is let's look at when we purchased cars going back 40 years ago. I could buy a Cutlass and they'll say, do you want an AM/FM radio? Do you want power windows? Do you want air conditioning? So I could buy a Cutlass that was stripped down, and it's a Cutlass, and then someone can buy it and have all the bells and whistles in it. My Cutlass costs 10 and theirs costs 20. That's how you have to look at it, and that's how after speaking with Vision Appraisal, that's how I thought about it. Geez, I think it's a little bit more than just a stripped-down Cutlass, but I don't have all the bells and whistles that she spoke of.
That makes so much sense to me, and the assessor, they have the tools, I think, too, because the CAPE bucket then will include, spec homes and, like, it'll include other types, and yours is a little different than that, too, so it's a matter of trying to adjust so that there's not an extreme swing in one direction or the other.
Because it's deceiving when you look at the front of the house, but as soon as you walk around the side, it's like obvious that it's a cape.
Is the question more, is it a custom cape for our purposes?
Yeah, and I think the things that we can nail in on is like just things that we can adjust in the
Because in the real estate world, we don't have, custom is a thing, but it's not, like you said before, Brad, there are colonials, there are capes, there's no custom.
Yeah,
And it makes sense that I think what they're really trying to address is people that are building $10 million palaces, that you can't classify using the mass appraisal data that we have.
But they are.
and you know what?
It's custom with a capital C or custom with a lowercase c or
I
something.
found there's a lot of different definitions, what people think
But for
the
our
word custom.
purposes-
But I went by Vision Appraisal's definition of custom.
For our
so.
purposes, the plan that we have provided in here is the plan I printed off the internet. And if you look at that plan, our home mirrors that plan. So we really didn't make any, the only adjustment was garage.
And the front door was on the right, and we reversed it, which is, it's the same house. Yeah.
No, thank you. And I just want to say that the information you provided and the way that you presented it to us was very helpful to kind of lay out exactly what the situation is. So thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. That was number 8, right? Yeah, so we're on number 17. Robenheimer, Nicholas, and Gianna.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Tim Robenheimer. I'm an attorney. I'm representing my nephew, client Nicholas, and my niece-in-law Gianna Robenheimer.
Sir, if you could just speak into the mic for the public, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. I don't mean to be pretentious, but I'm thinking what happens if we're not successful today. So are we marking exhibits? I'd like to have my exhibits marked. I'd like to have the vision appraisal report marked, the definition section marked. And I'm not again, trying to be pretentious, but I just need to do my job, so forgive me for
Absolutely.
suggesting that. So I don't know how you want to start this. You typically, I'm the appellant, so I would have my exhibits marked first, and then I guess the town would do so. So the first exhibit I would like to have marked is a copy of an appraisal that was prepared by, on behalf of my clients by David Wild of David Wild Appraisals. I have one. Normally there would be a clerk. I hand it to the clerk.
You can hand it to Ms. Sang, and she will enter it into the record as Exhibit 1.
And may I approach?
We do have copies. Feel free to hand out that everyone's got a copy of the appraisal, which was received in our office on September 15th,
Okay.
2025.
So,
We do already have a copy of this, so
Okay.
if you don't see me looking at this, it's because I already have one. It's not that I'm ignoring it.
no disrespect, but the most important thing is
understand.
that this young lady here marks it as an exhibit for me. I would like to have the vision appraisal report, the actual report, marked as an exhibit for this particular property. Do we have that?
I believe so. Appraisal is Exhibit 1, correct? Are we on the same page?
Not my expert's appraisal, the town's
I understand.
report.
Thank you.
So that would be 2. Oh.
Entered.
Entered, thank you. Exhibit 3 would be, and I only have one copy, I'm very sorry. These are all the receipts for the building materials for this particular house that were purchased at Arnold Lumber. I'd like to have this package marked as exhibit number 3. And the purpose for that exhibit is basically to piggyback on the couple who was just up here and did an excellent presentation relative to the quality of materials that were used at this property for the construction. So those are the exhibits at the moment I'd like to have marked, and in the form of a narrative, it's basically the same argument that the folks were making who were just up here, in that the town assessor, through vision appraisal, categorized the style of this house as custom, and our position is it's not custom. If you look at page, well, I'm sorry. The 18th page, not by number, just by count, I apologize, of exhibit number 1, which would be Mr. Wild's appraisal, you'll see conditions, ratings, and definitions, which are a little bit different from the vision appraisal definitions. Now, this gentleman is a certified real estate appraiser in the state of Rhode Island, and our position is that this property that I don't believe vision appraisal or somebody from vision appraisal actually went into the home. In the town's assessment, it's identified as custom. Our position is it's not custom. It's basically just a conventional built home with no marble, it's identified as having hardwood floors. There's no hardwood floors. It's identified as having ceramic tile floors on the second floor. That's not accurate. There are some bathrooms that have ceramic tiles, but most of the second floor is carpeted. There are multiple errors in the description contained within the town's assessment of the materials that are used at this property. I'm not going to belabor the point because we now have an exhibit, Exhibit 1, which tells you the materials that are in the house. It also identifies that up on the second floor, there was an area that was finished, that was classified as unfinished in the town's report. But our expert has included that in his valuation of this property. Like the last folks who were here, the 2023 appraisal of this same property was $981,000, $800,000, just the house. We do not dispute the value of the land. We're only talking about the structure on the property. And then in 2024, it bounced up to $1,713,700. And therein lies the problem, and therein lies what we believe to be an error on the part of the company that did the assessment, the evaluation. When you have the benefit to read the appraisal that we've presented by Mr. Wild, you'll see that there's a $613,200 difference in his valuation of $1,400,000, which includes the land and the house, and the town's of $2,013,200, which includes the land and the house. And the difference is the structure, is the house. And Mr. Wild indicates in his report that this is not a custom-built home. If you do the math, the per square foot price of the home based on the town's assessment is $650 per square foot. Mr. Wild's is $350 per square foot because he actually went inside the home, looked at all the materials, reviewed the receipts relative to what was used to build the home. I noticed that one of the comps that was provided by the town when my clients filed the initial appeal was a property at, I thought I wrote it down, 191 Spartina Cove. That property has a two-car garage. This property has no garage. My client's property has no garage. There is a private road that runs through the property that my clients and a couple other folks who live there have the obligation to maintain. That should impact the value of the property. They're solely on their own for maintaining that property. I don't see really any, well, there's some depreciation, but very little regarding a house that was built in 2022. We're now in, well, it looks like the assessment was 12/31/2024. So you're not going to find in this home, as the last folks said, indicated, no imported tile from Italy. There's no big pieces of marble anywhere. There's no exotic wood molding. The siding is vinyl. The floors are carpeted. There's no hardwoods anywhere in the house. You know, my client insists that I say there's no toady toilets. You know, these are just basic, standard building materials that are in this property. And I understand that the assessor's wrestling with what's custom, but I would submit that the industry standard, based on what Mr. Wild has presented in the form of an expert report, is a little bit different from what the town is using. It's frankly a lot different. So I would ask the board to consider the fact that Mr. Wild actually went into the home, inspected the home, looked at all the material that was there, hands-on, not just to drive by or whatever the vision appraisers did relative to this particular piece of property. Consider the classification or the style, removing it from custom, because it's not custom. I don't know, and I understand now, having heard the assessor and the fact that they're kind of struggling with what is custom. I believe, I would submit that on the 18th page of this report, you'll see a very good section of definitions relative to quality, as I think Mr. Heffernan, is that how you say your name?
Heavenor.
Heavenor pointed out. And I would also ask you to take a look at the 8th page of the document. It's captioned Supplemental Addendum Exhibit 1 that I submitted. And you'll see at the bottom additional comments. Those additional comments made by Mr. Wild are basically the basis for our appeal and the request that the assessor or the board consider removing the classification of custom, because that significantly reduces, as we heard in the last presentation, the value of the home, therefore the the amount of taxes that my clients will be paying on this property. So, as I indicated, I'm not sure how this particular body functions, but the report basically kind of speaks for itself. We've kind of highlighted what we believe are the highlights. My client's here to answer any questions relative to that the board may have, but we would rely on the the evaluation report submitted by Mr. Wild.
Nicholas, who was your builder for this project?
We had Exodus Construction, so the Goddards are in the news. You can Google them for embezzlement of different construction properties they've done. So in addition to everything we went through, we had to kind of parse out what they kind of stole from us as well.
I think you handed Liz an exhibit over there that related to construction costs, which I don't think we've seen, if that's what I think it is. So I don't need to see it just yet. But I just might ask the homeowner or representative to just maybe walk us through the construction process, the materials that were bought, and just kind of relating the construction process and cost to the finished process. Tell us about just that.
Yeah, so the total for labor and materials was $750,000. We had $55,000 for the septic and $50,000 for the landscape dry wells on that end.
So in addition to the 750.
The 750 was the labor. So in addition to that, there was 55,000 for the septic and the 50,000 for the grading and the dry well.
So the 750 was the total builder's price, or the total builder's charge to the owner?
That was, so it was both kind of the actual cost from Exodus and then what we had to do to finish the project, all the receipts coming from Arnold Lumber, and also what we ended up being the GCs after that, so what we paid to the builders.
So labor.
Labor, yeah.
Right. So there could be an element of like a builder's profit or something to factor in.
I think there was a 15% profit margin with the original contract. I don't know about the second.
So the 15% is or is not in the 750?
No, the 750, that's how much it actually cost.
That's
for
the
us to
cost,
build,
yeah,
yes.
okay, yeah, okay.
And I know it's in the materials, but I've got a big stack of papers in front of me. But the acquisition of the land, was there a purchase of the land, or how did
It was
that?
signed over from our parents.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the valuation is accurate. Yeah.
Right.
Understood.
Right. And maybe one question I had about the, so I understand you have either waterfront or water view from the property. Could you just Oh, okay. Yeah.
And there's a picture. Yeah, there's also a picture in the evaluation that indicates like what that view looks like. So it's looking
It
over
makes
a
me
farm
want to
pond.
cut down some of those, the branches
Which the
that are
DEM does
obstructing.
not want us to be able to do.
Right, okay.
Correct, yes.
That was, yeah, I was just wanting to speak to the water amenity.
Correct, yeah. So there is the water view there. Once we're going over, yeah. Yeah.
So we're not disputing the value of the land.
Right.
And the land has a view of the pond. If you took that same house, I would submit, and put it across Route 2, in the neighborhood across the road, it would be significantly less value than the house as it sits right now. I hope that we're not confusing the fact that it has a water view means the value of the house goes up.
Yeah.
I understand the land, but we're not disputing the land evaluation.
No, and I think that my clarification was just asking, I had the photo in the appraisal report, which kind of shows the vegetation, but I had not yet seen kind of a.
Yeah, there's quite a bit.
So that, I just was trying to understand the site characteristics, essentially.
So are you giving us permission to cut all the vegetation?
I have no such, we have far less authority than people think we have, but no, that was just kind of like as background for me, so.
I think it really gets down to custom versus not custom. And our position is based on our experts report it's not custom, and you can physically go out there and look and see what materials are in this house. It all gets back to the quality classifications, I guess.
I mean, that was one lingering question I had, because there were questions over what degree of inspection was conducted, and so maybe I just asked the assessor, was there a personal physical inspection of the property? Was there an interior inspection? If you could just speak to that.
No interior inspection.
You'll find that in the appraisal world, it's like the survey world. That's a drive-by is no way the same kind of quality as walking in and going in the house and doing an inspection. We know that the the assessment, it says hardwood floors. There aren't any. It says ceramic tile. There aren't any. There's some in the bathroom, but it says the whole second floor. And then the comps have 2-car garages. This property has no garage. So I don't believe, and I would submit, an accurate assessment, or not an assessment, valuation.
Other questions, comments? That was a 10-minute alarm, I'm assuming?
Wow. And the only other question I
yes.
have is, just for purposes of the record, is there any other exhibits that the town will be submitting on its behalf in support of its assessment?
Not at this time.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, 20, Philip Hill.
I'm actually going to interject. They are not going to be in attendance. We'll table this to the following meeting.
Okay. Item 20 has been tabled to the following meeting. Item number 25. So Royce, Robert, and is Robert and Barry here? What do we, if no one's showing up here, what do we want to do? Do we want to?
I didn't hear back from them.
Okay.
So I'll leave it to you if you want to table it to the next meeting, and I can reach out and find out what the scoop is, or if you want a decision, it's your call.
I would recommend that. What's what's everybody else's pleasure?
Yeah, if there's an opportunity to give it another stab,
Yeah.
and we can just table it for another, I think, and also in the interest of time, maybe.
Just to be on the safe side, let's make a motion. I don't have the attorney here today, but it can't hurt.
Yeah, so I'll make
Okay.
a motion with respect to number 20, is it number 25, that we table this to the next meeting?
And 20 as well.
Yeah.
So the two. Appeals 2025 are tabled till the next meeting.
20 and 25, correct, Brad?
Yep, that's what I.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table those two applicants, or the two appellants, for the next meeting, or a future meeting. Do we have a second?
I will second the motion.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Okay, number 28. Nance Russell and Anthony Fiore. Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dave. How are you? I'm here in regards to 38 Beach Drive. It's a vacant piece of property. I had Deprete Engineering do an assessment of it, wetlands flagging, to see if in fact the lot was buildable. I'm pretty sure you have the layout diagram of it and the explanation from engineer Eric Prevey. I won't repeat any of that if you just want to take a look, or if you already have taken a look. And I'm just trying to get an understanding. Right now, it's pretty much a mosquito swamp. It's really not buildable, has no valuable to me. Valuable to, if I wanted to file for a building permit, make the lot buildable, it would be extremely difficult, almost impossible. So I'm just trying to understand a value of, it was started maybe at $311,000, it might be valued at $222,000. I spoke with the Vision Appraisal gentleman. He told me usually if a lot's not buildable, it goes down to about 10% of that value. When it was around $300,000, that kind of sounded reasonable to me. $222,000 sounds completely unreasonable for something I can't do anything with. So I'll be the shortest presentation today.
Maybe I'll ask Wendy, in cases like this, what kind of evidence is typically presented by a property owner? I mean, does this suffice to classify as a buildable versus not buildable? Like, what does that process look like?
It's more a decision collectively for myself and also for the building official. And I know the burden of making it a non-developable lot, the burden of proof is extremely high. This letter, which was received in our office after our decision, this was 72 hours prior to this meeting, so I'm pretty much reading it at the same time as you are as well. And it's saying it doesn't appear to be, and there's some probability, so it really has to be that high of a bar where it's not buildable. And I'd have to speak with the building official, but I think, and planning department collectively. Usually in the past, we don't do that often, and the burden is, soil surveys and all sorts of things. Although the burden here with this letter it's more than we've received in the past. So we have it. It is absolutely valuable with discovery. I did, when I first looked at this lot, I brought the condition factor to match the abutter on Pondview Drive, map 90-1, lot 129. If I zoom out a little, you'll see it. So that's the value change that we've extended to Mr. Fiore from 311.3 down to 222.5. We did adjust the value 88,800. Separate from this letter from Dupree Engineering, just because of the condition factor. So we felt that to be appropriate. So now that we've kind of scrubbed it down to that value, it'll be on the board to basically give us a value. Whether we change the code from developable to not, that actually doesn't change the value at all. It's just a classification. And historically, once it's been on the books as developable, the burden is higher to prove that it's not versus it not and prove that it is. So we can have that discussion if you'd like, depending on exactly what you're looking for. Is it both? Is it one?
This is pretty much what I do for a living, all over the place, whether it's South Kingston, North Kingston, or whatever. I am extremely confident, and I sure don't want to go spend another $10,000, $15,000 playing around with soil tests and digging test holes and then going through the bureaucracy of trying to get a building, especially in this town, in regards to getting a permit, going through zoning boards or whatever to potentially build like a shed on the piece of property in regards to the setbacks. So I feel pretty confident I can definitely get more backup information, but I sure don't want to be through the ringer here in regards to making this lot, whether it's buildable or not buildable. I feel very comfortable with my background and what I've done, that this is not a buildable lot. And I don't see anyone paying or want to pay on a valuation of whether it's $300,000, $222,000, for what? Is my question, for what? I don't really care about someone else's piece of property. It's really what can you do with this parcel?
I just have a question, Wendy. Obviously, I was out for a second there. So, does the town have a special designation for like unbuildable properties? So,
Yes, there's two. It either is developable potentially
Okay.
or not.
And-
So the
and-
potential part is obviously valuable. You can do what you like as a board, considering, what you have in front of you, and we'll do what we need to do, whether it be the assessment and the designation. That is something that's on the table.
okay. Other comments, questions? Okay.
What's that?
Tony, you have anything else?
No, just basically stated everything I had to say.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing.
Sure.
I would have no problem if you wanted to say that the lot was in fact unbuildable, so you don't think anyone's trying to pull any designation or something sneaky like I'm gonna have a buildable lot or something at the end of the day. It's pretty much unbuildable. You know, I've kind of looked at it multiple ways, so it's not like something I'm trying to pull a fast one on the town. If you want to give me a building permit for it, I'll take the valuation all day long. You can even add more to it. I take the 300,000. I'll even go 400 if you want to give me a building lot. Just seriously, I would. I have the value is there if it was buildable. I'm very comfortable to say that.
Again, we don't have that kind of power.
No, but I just telling you how I feel
Right,
about
yeah.
the value in the area. I mean, it's a beautiful area. It's just wet. It's unfortunate. Okay.
So just how does that work? If there is something labeled unbuildable, so, yeah, what would happen if 10 years from now, somebody came in and was
They'd
saying...
have to prove that it was, and they'd have to go through the opposite side of the coin.
And then would they be charged like taxes in the rears for, you know, for the value or for the lost potential
No.
tax revenue because the value would have been higher at that time?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so really it's on the applicant to prove to us that that's unbuildable. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay,
We good? Thanks.
thank you.
Yep.
I know so right now, we're going to take about a 10-minute break or a 5-minute break, guys, and then we'll have a discussion here, and anybody that's here now is more than welcome to stay.
And I just want to regroup because we did go through exactly what I'm going to go grab downstairs, but I want to do it in a public forum so that we're not off the mic.
Okay.
So just bear with me a moment while I go through the notes. I believe it was in regards to 450 Sand Plains Trail, if I'm not mistaken. We wanted to know the visit. Oh, no, that wasn't the one. Oh, here it is. So we're looking for the visit history for 2 Lab Hill to find out exactly what happened from the point of the visit history from the reval to the assessments going back and forth to where we landed, correct? Thank you. Appeal number 6. Is there anything else I need to fetch at this time? I think that was it. No, for our records, that's sufficient. I appreciate it. Unless you wanted to look at those receipts. Okay. All right. I'm good. Let's break.
Just on that one, maybe when we come to the decision-making phase on that property, if you could just pass them along so we could just skim them, that would be, I think, a good way to do it. Should I make a motion to break, or do we?
I don't think we need to make a motion to break. I think we should just set a time to return. I would say 10 minutes from now, if you'd like to call that time, Mr. Bod, and we'll go from there.
So we'll call it 11:20. How's that? So it's going to actually be 9 minutes. Can you
All right, I
handle that,
better
Wendy?
run. Bye.
Okay, 11:20. We'll get back to the meeting. Thank you.
Do you make decisions today? Potentially. This.
We hear you guys.
Yeah.
Then we'll take a break, and then we'll discuss to see what conclusions we can make.
Yep.
come up with a conclusion today, we will.
Okay.
We'll table it, sometimes we even will build a property, it depends on what we have.
Okay.
We're hoping we can make a decision today.
All right.
If it's in our,
That makes sense.
it just isn't.
And what do you guys think as far as, you'll be here another half hour, what is it, you ballpark?
I would say at least an hour.
Okay, just trying to do my little schedule here. All right, appreciate it, thank you.
We'll have to kick them out because we have important business to do. I hope that.
Now, if you want to know custom, check out the ladies' bathroom. That's custom.
That thing has just changed.
That's beautiful.
It used to be like 19.
Oh, really?
Last time 1960.
Oh, wow.
Everything was really low.
Yep. different
Yellow,
material.
yellow and white.
Oh, lovely.
Pretty bad, actually.
I used to go through when I was crazy to feel like a lot of town halls.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them have like real antique
Yeah.
fixtures.
Yeah.
I think I was looking in socket somewhere where it's like the men's room urinals, and like the front boards, like porcelain, it's like, I don't even know. Some of these things, it's like, now we have to drain the floor. They're probably the valuables like salvage antiques or something.
Probably.
They just haven't been fixed because.
Remember the old toilet table was built into the wall, like the folder was built into the
Right,
wall?
right.
And toilet paper didn't have thickness.
Right.
Because now we have ultra thick and ultra big and all, you know,
Yeah.
that's how it was. When you started. What's that? No, to me it looks institutional to me. There isn't a lick of color in there.
I think I like the floor, the tile floor.
The floor tiles, you know, did a fabulous job.
Put a lot of work into it.
We don't know if it's good or bad.
I know.
That's a good thing. Shane, don't feel competition.
It's hard. And I was a teacher, so, but it's different. It is different.
You had to view them as fourth graders, you taught fourth grade, that was the problem. You're looking at college students.
Fourth grade is tougher.
Thank you for being patient. I'm ready when you are. No rush.
Okay, our break is over, and we are resuming the meeting. Where do we want to start here? We want to start on the,
I think what I'll do, we've done it before, just make a motion to close, I'll make a motion to close the hearing phase and move into the decision-making phase.
okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Or do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, public hearing has been closed. Do we have a, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Okay, we have, so we're going to start with number 2. That was Bernarsic.
I mean, on this one, like, I kind of just zoom in on the issue of the way that this same models in the development are being handled differently. And I guess before I get too deep, maybe just ask Wendy if there's an explanation. I can see there's some like minor differences between all the various units. And I know that there's one that's similar to the subject that is assessed similarly. And I guess maybe specifically, I think it's the average plus 20 versus good plus 10, where that comes from.
So it came specifically from the reval company. If you look at the field card for the subject at 450 Sand Plains Trail, under notes for 2024, there was a grade change based on a higher base price. If you actually go on the website for South Shore Village, you will see the different models and different base pricing. So that was the reason that the appraiser for Vision calculated that based on that. And the footprint for South Shore, it's been been in development for as long as I've been here, for the last 5 years. So the last phases, the material costs are different than they were when they started that first phase in 20. So some of that's built in with the depreciation, and we've tried to, bring everything in the middle. But there, for obvious reasons, there is I don't want to use the word discrepancy, but there is a difference between the last phases, like she mentioned, and availability, and the markets obviously captured that, which this is a subject sale for the reval. The sale for 450 Sand Plains was purchased for $1,122,474. The sale took place June 13th of 2024. I'd be more than happy to pass out the condo sale because I think that'll come into play for another appeal if you want me to do that at this time. And to speak about the grade, again, Vision did that. I think there's room for what you want to do with the grade if you so choose to do that. Did you have anything to say about the grade in particular? Because that wasn't done by our office, but it's something that we did notice. But there was a reason for it based on that higher base price.
Yes, I would like that information. One point that I had was that, she asked a question of how it compares years past. And I just want to make sure we're all on the same page here. We're only considered what the value would be of any of the units within the calendar year 2024. So if it's sold in 2020, that value has nothing to do with anything that would be in consideration as what it would sell for or what they have sold for. So for me, it's just going to come down to, are they being properly assessed from the grade perspective? How does that compare? That's what my main concern would be with this one. Do you guys share with me, or do you have anything else that is a question or concern?
Okay.
Oh.
Come on, Taylor Swift.
One of my questions would be, I was surprised that the other units didn't change more than they did from the 800. Why they weren't reflected more of this price that properties are now going in for the 224.
Those were those properties that are now at 8, I think Brad spoke to it earlier, Mr. Hevener, where they were in that 2021 cycle. So
Right.
there is a division on that's embedded into the whole.
Were they in different phases also? So
Yeah, they're like on phase 38 or something over there, but I look at it as a reval phase in my head.
Other comments, questions? What is the board's pleasure? Okay.
I'm just checking the comps, just briefly, if you don't mind, to make sure that they were all Nantucket styles. There are 3 different styles there, correct?
All the ones we listed. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Depending on the phase, they will phase out a model or whatever, but Nantucket's always been Nantucket and it's always been 2028 square feet. Did the comps you give these on Fescue or they're all Nantucket? They're all Nantucket. And there's individual comps for each of those. See, as soon as it's over 2,000 square feet, it's Nantucket, 2028. So when you look at the 4 comps I did,
The 4 comps that you submitted on September 12th, correct? Okay.
Yeah, and I think just to speak, I think the difficulty that we're getting into right now is that this is really a case of disproportionate assessment, which is hard for us to grapple with because, like, the straightforward case is, what is the market value of the subject? We're dealing with the property before us. And, once we start, like, casting our gaze around the neighborhood, it becomes harder for us to even, like, kind of try to figure out, like, what is the explanation for the discrepancies in this property or that property. And typically, it's almost impossible for us to really, like, get into, except in this case, we have similar year built, similar model, similar material. Like, we have pretty clear case that they should be at least similar. I understand that it's more recent batch of sales and some market forces driving the end of the development, but to see a $200,000 or $300,000 spread between what should be very similar units it's like something that concerns me. But I mean, the remedy, we can't increase the assessments of the others appropriately. So when we're faced with a discrepancy, and this is like an open question for the board to consider, is how do we, if we see the person before us maybe treated unfairly in comparison to neighbors, how do we handle that just with what we're able to do? All we're able to do is kind of work with the subject. We can tell the assessor's office to go back and fix it all, but they don't, that's not something that we have the authority to really do other than just urge you to do. But, I could imagine that we could look at it and just say, can we just switch her grade, or switch these homeowners' grades back to be consistent with the others in the development? Instead of saying good plus 10, can we do average plus 20 like the others in the development that are similar models, similar year of construction? That's a possibility. It would
we
reduce
need to know that
the.
they are, though. That would be my question.
That is, and I think
How
that's
do I
what
know
makes
that?
our job hard to kind of verify when we go around looking at them all. Is I don't know that, yeah.
I mean, for the purpose of today and the appellant that we have in front of us and the comps provided, I could briefly, the comps that Ms. Bednar, am I saying it correctly? I can go ahead and look at those grades and we can go from there.
Yeah, we have the information for her, but I don't have the information on the other properties to know. So that's why I asked the question about the increases. Maybe they did less, maybe they did more. I don't know. I don't know.
Right, I agree, Ken, and I think that, there's small differences, I'm sure, in finish, overall finish, even sizes, configurations, finished basements, but just trying to isolate down to that one factor, grade, that seems to be the driving force here over some of the smaller differences between them.
So what do we want to have staff look into this more and table this for the next meeting? Or put this on the next agenda?
I can, for the next meeting, have available to you a spreadsheet with all the units and grades. The comp she provided on fescue, that was like one of the first phases, so those are all the 5, and then just kind of investigate what's going on with the grades there. Are we talking a handful, or is it just due to the phase? It seems like that's what the reval company did do, so I think that was that appropriate or not is probably the question at this point. And I'd be more than, and I can also get a map of the phases and have a little bit more of a visual on it. Sometimes that matters.
I'm perfectly fine with the increase. I just don't know if it is to the point where the town has it and what adjustments we could or could not make, because I do believe that, again, they bought the condo for that amount of money in that year, so it's worth what they paid for. But the assessment or appraisal is a little bit even higher than that. It's a smidgen. So I don't know to what degree we have the ability to reduce it with that information. But there could be some small tweaking involved from my perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's the real tension between what we're trying to do, looking at market value and the question of overvaluation versus the question of the fairness in comparison to other similar or practically identical properties. And so, yeah, I think, and I think the other reason to have this researched a little bit more is because usually when there's a discrepancy like this in a development like this, we're going to see it like again and again and again until we straighten it out. So if it makes sense to get the research done, to take a closer look at it so that if this comes up again, we kind of have a global handle on it, because we end up handling these cases like on a case-by-case basis, and that starts throwing things out of whack too. So
I agree. It's something that we would most likely look at as an office anyway, leading up to the next statistical to look at that. Just for a basis of what that grade change would do, like a hypothetical,
yeah.
I think might matter. So if all things being equal, if we were to make the grade change from the 7 to, it sounds like what the appellant is asking, which would be a grade 5, the value change goes from assessed value 1,11363, and it would bring us down to 9417. So the difference.
Right, and I think that with the additional information, maybe we can try to balance out,
Yeah.
you know.
So 194.6 is the value for a 2 grade change difference. It looks like it's probably about 90 some for each grade, just something to take into consideration specifically for South Shore.
Right, no.
If you would like to submit additional documentation, I absolutely encourage you to do that. We're always going to try to be as helpful as we can on our end. The burden obviously is more so on your end, but this is something that we'll look into regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Thank you, and it's nice to be able to try to dig in and sort out things where we see issues. So, should I make a motion just to table this to the next meeting?
I would, and then specifically what you're asking me to provide for the next meeting.
Right. Table this until the next meeting so that the assessor can gather for the board information on other properties in the development. With specific reference to model type and grade. I know that's too long of a motion, but
it was perfect.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
No, I'll second the motion.
We have a second. Just so that's going to be going under old business at the next on the next agenda.
Correct. So the next agenda, once we set that meeting date, that'll move from the new business to still laying in a discussion phase until you've made a decision.
Okay. Old business, all right. Okay with that, Brad? Great. Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Okay. Number 4.
I'm going to just pass down the sales. If you want, I can make a copy of it, but this is specifically from the reval, what we did book.
These are the sales for the
For all condos, you'll see the
condos.
two for, I didn't reference the 2 sales for Rocky Brook, but if you wanted to take a peek, I have that here.
Yes, and do
for
you, I mean, just in the case of this, the topic really was like the differences in percent increases across different property types. And I don't know if you have anything handy that we could just take a look at to see what the impact was of the.
I can give you, this breaks down every condo complex in our town with how many sales with a count, and then what the medium assessment to sales ratio is, and it's all within, you know, that 92, 3, 4. The only group I took down slightly, actually for the reval, was Rocky Brook. They were a little bit more on the higher end, so everybody collectively there did get a little bit of a reduction during the hearing phase before we even certified the values. Just something to be mindful of going ahead. And then what the medium sale appraised is, this might be helpful, I'll pass that down.
Yeah, and I guess just generally speaking, in this last reval, condominium properties went up at a higher percent change than
I
other
have something for
property
you.
types. And I think this is just maybe for, and I know you've likely presented this before to to the town council, but for us to understand what we're looking at, if homes went up X percent and, you know, like that kind of thing. It's just context, and I think in this case, because the
I'm going to send this down. This will give you a summary of basically the entire reval quickly, with style, land, building rates, and neighborhoods. The neighborhood didn't come up for this meeting, but I'll pass that down as well, and we can make a copy if you'd like.
And I think the point is, a condominium unit owner in the town of South Kingstown that saw a 50% increase in assessment, that's not uncommon across the town?
No, that you shouldn't see that. All condos went up at a median increase of 40%. So he was saying he was about 23. There were some on that 40% and 17. It just depends on all things being said, the development itself, your construction, neighborhood, things like that.
Right, and we see this with every reval. There's a pocket in town or a type of property. Like last time, it was like homes south of Route 1 saw, you know, double-digit increases, and homes north of Route 1 was lower. This is like a typical part of the process.
And he did bring up a good point, and I think you are going to see that. I mean, I don't know the winning Powerball numbers before they pull them, obviously, but we can start to see trends, and everything that's coming in the queue for us for 2025, we call them cuts, but like subdivisions, minor subdivisions, things like that. There are a lot of condos being developed, so you are going to see an increase of sales just because that is what's being built in town.
Right, okay. Yeah. Can I see the spread? Sure. Right, and I'm just seeing in the information that you shared that overall condo median changed 41%, overall residential median changed 26%, and you know there's various factors that it's different for different.
Moving forward for the next
Properties.
appeals cycle, just, you know, every year I get a little better, don't we all? So I did provide a memo of what happened during the reval, a very short synopsis of it for the council. So next time that happens, I'll give it to y'all before, and I'll have that ready for the next meeting for you as well.
And I think
Thank you
it's
for
just
reminding me.
important to note is that those changes are really driven by sales, in the, you know, and I think that's, you know, something that's like frustrating to receive a big change, but it's all driven by actual transactions that have occurred showing higher sale prices. So that's like directly related to real estate market trends, which is how we want to do things. So, you know, in the case of this, you know, this appeal, you know, there was information about, you know, the impact of this increase, but there wasn't other information presented, I think, that would lead us down the road. You know, it doesn't appear to be overvaluation based on the comparables. I believe there's one listed in the same development currently for like 420,000. Everything seems to be reflective of market. And in terms of disproportionate, it seems like these increases applied to all condominium units across town. So there's no case where a group of properties or single properties at a particular disadvantage. It seems like, you know, I don't see anything there either.
And that was a recent sale where that one went for 413, that was listed substantially less, correct, Ken?
Yeah, that happened in the calendar year of 2020, that was the last sale in there, so that closed. Oh. We can hear each other, right? Okay. Yep, that was the only sale that MLS has as selling during that calendar year, and that closed, it was listed on 4/19 of 24. It sold, close date was on 6/3 or June 3 of 24. Like I said, it just shows the demand, but it went on the market for 340 and it sold for 413. So that's just a huge jump. Now, I don't know if that was an outlier or not, but the data that Wendy is supplying based on condos in general that we're getting, there is a huge increase in that. So I think that at the very least, I believe that the town is more correct than the applicant, the owner. Is it at that price or a little bit lower? That I'm not sure. Again, I could see some wiggle room there, but certainly a 413 sale price sets the market.
Understood, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, Ken. I don't see, you know, I guess we could decrease it a little bit, but I don't really know if we have a valid, you know, a reason. I mean, one sale is, you know, could be an outlier, but I mean, we can't determine that. I think we have to just go by what the sales are and keep it simple. Unless, you know, somebody else has another opinion.
No, and I kind of agree with that. And we weren't really being asked in this case to take a look at the interior condition or any like physical attributes of the property. The case wasn't being made that mine's not actually an average plus 10 condition, or my building is X square feet instead of this. You know, there was no other, I guess, no other basis for the appeal other than just kind of like the general sense of unfairness about the magnitude of the increase, which really impacted all condo units in town.
So do we want to?
Which did not necessarily.
Sorry, Alice, go ahead.
Which did not.
On the right side.
Did not necessarily raise their taxes to 23% because the mill rate came down.
Point well taken. Do we have any other discussion? Does anybody want to make a motion?
No, the only thing I'm going to go back to is, again, I still think that number is a touch on the high side. I would rather see it be in the high threes as kind of a compromise, but I don't know if that is we have the ability to do that. There's a property on the market there that's on the market currently at 419. It's been on the market for a couple of weeks. It didn't fly off the shelf, so the value in 24 to me, as a realtor, should have been more in the high threes, but it was at 413. So I can't argue if we want to keep it the way it is. My experience and my gut instinct is that a high 300 number should be. Are all of them, Wendy, at that kind of point? They're all in that because they're all very, very similar. This isn't like a South Shore where you could come in and do $100,000 upgrades. They are kind of what they are.
They are, and actually, if you give me 1 minute, I can log in with a condo. There's one table in particular. I can kind of like real blanket look quickly.
Okay.
Give me 1 minute.
Yeah, we'd want to make sure that there's equity amongst them, you know, within reason. And it's kind of splitting hairs because I think that, again, vision of the town is more correct than not, but I still view that as 2024 as a bit of an outlier. Alice, would you tend to agree with that?
All right.
When you're going to multiple offers, it really skews the numbers. I'm not sure how appraisers do it.
So just real quickly, just blanket looking at it and filtering it from high to low. The highest assessment at Rocky Brook at 97 is 417.9, and a lot of them float around the 382, 384, 377. So I mean, we talk about reasonableness. Is it reasonable? So, the splitting hairs I'll leave on your end.
And I know that in that development, I believe they have end units and they have middle units, and there might be differences in square footage in that development. I know so the subject is an end, which should fall in the middle to higher portion, just by being on the end, I believe, based on, I've seen sales in that development before. I mean, the sale, the data that we got from the assessor here showing the median sale price, it's basically 2 sales, median is at 398. I'd be amenable like Ken if we want to make a small reduction in that direction, just given, I think, your perspective on market activity in that development as well. I'd be, open to an adjustment maybe towards the median of 398.
I would agree.
398 was the number?
That's as a base. That's the median of 2 sales that occurred in 2024, just as a reference point for us to, like a basis for a decision. We don't have a whole lot more to go on, in terms of picking it apart. So,
okay, do we have the power to do a $10,000 reduction? Okay, I would make a motion that we do a $10,000 reduction to 398 for this particular property.
I second the motion.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, motion passes. Number 6, Lab Hill Road.
All right, we've got some handouts for you on that per your request, and then we'll talk about it once you have it all received.
I'm sorry?
Is this the phone call?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for getting this, Wendy, and sharing it with us.
Yes.
I don't know if you can kind of just walk us through your perspective on just kind of each of the steps in this process.
Sure. Let me just grab what you have in front of you today is just a screenshot of what we call a parcel audit. Every time you click in this software, it accounts for something that happened. So it's very helpful because we don't always have notes. Have many challenges that I've inherited, and a lot of it is going from paper to computer. Moving forward, we're gonna 10 years from now be able to just go in notes and we'll know exactly every little tiny thing we did. But right now it's trying to find what we did on paper. So this is one of the situations where we've also have to train the reval company because there's all different data collectors where some put notes and some don't. So we're sort of in the middle of training and moving into this new phase of assessing. But that being said, I don't always have things at the being able to pull things quickly, and unfortunately I don't have any notes other than what you have in front of you. So that being said, I took a screenshot of the visit history. There's an ID here, KN. So on 3/3/2025 there was a hearing change. Unfortunately, there's no hearing note on what actually happened. And there wasn't too many of these, just so you know, so that just happens to be that. So to find out what we did, we did a screenshot for the parcel audit. If you go all the way, it's the colored paper in blue. If you go all the way to the bottom on 220, that just means that we went into the card, we meaning the vision, during reval hearings. So it looks on 3/3 was actually when the phone call occurred. So you can see it went from 489.2 to 529. That was just the increase in general from the revaluation. So then you see where it starts to change based on, you know, commercial building has heat, and then it went from not commercial has heat. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you can see it's been touched several times. Now, I'm not the person that did it, so I'm not sure why that happened. I'm just telling you what happened. So it looks like they changed the room count from 3 to 5. Looks like they changed the AC type from a 1 to a 7. So that was the, I believe, the partial?
Basically, from this particular parcel, when Mr. Harrington had a meeting with Vision, he disclosed that he had the mini splits. He disclosed that he had these other upgrades. So Vision was obligated to add those to his property card. So that's where it went, like, you know, the first thing, you know, that's why he says it was detrimental to call. It was just discovery. So then we went in after the fact, after he came back in and talked to us, we were able to distinguish that the whole house didn't have AC. So that's why we changed the card to partial, which is why his assessment then went down a little bit. But we only know what we know, right? Oftentimes things are done, you know, improvements are made that we're not aware of. And, you know, originally, the original owner of this house he put the mini splits in, you know, so you have to account for that.
He indicated that the card or that he had central air, which he does not have, and that he has mini splits. Is there a difference?
There is a difference, which is why.
And is he being properly, because he said it was central air.
Correct. So when he told Vision that he had central air, they put it in as complete central air.
Okay.
Then when Mr. Harrington talked to us in the office, he said, well, it's only mini splits and not every room is getting the AC. Okay. So we changed it on the back of the card. We went from full to partial. So he's getting a credit for not having the whole.
Okay. So you have the full picture now. Correct. But he is 100% correct by the fact that he brought attention to his property. He was given credit for what he wanted, but also, as you mentioned, discovery, he has it. Once you discover he has it, there's not much we can do about it. So in your opinions, everything here is correct based on the information we have, and it's just an unfortunate circumstance that he supplied more information than he should have. Okay, I understand.
Which is why we gave him that value adjustment and the abatement, which was actually credited to his account from the last town council meeting that we recently had. So that adjustment. Yes, we're going to take the sauna off. Thank you. He didn't even ask us to take the sauna off. We were going to take the sauna off when I get back down, and just because I did notice that we are trying to take lean-tos off and saunas off cards, and there's a couple scattered around town. So that was incorrect. We'll take that off, so he'll get a value reduction of $1,200 or something. Not, it won't be a big reduction, but that'll happen.
Right, so we don't have to actually make a motion on the sauna issue. You know, I can understand how, like, from his perspective, he was making an inquiry, and then gets a letter in the mail saying his assessment went up $30,000. Like, I can understand where that would make someone not want to, you know, participate in the process in the future. You know, that, like, the first step is to talk to Vision, and if people have the impression it's going to expose them, that's not a good precedent to set. But understanding that also, if there's additional facts that are disclosed, I know this in my work, is you can't unsee or unhear something that you learn about. You have to just kind of deal with what you've got in front of you. So I can understand the issue with the air conditioning or the mini splits. So
after the Vision hearings, we ended up actually, I wanted to know what we had before and after the hearing, so we ran spreadsheets to see, and we actually ended up losing $10 million of value. So I think a lot of people think it's a hit to get more. The data's not there. We're just discovering. We can't undiscover stuff. Yeah. It's just whatever comes through. No, so collectively it went down. It didn't go up. But right. I think some people collectively they did go up.
There's an impression I think that can be that the process can be punitive rather than beneficial, and you know, I think we have to all be careful to, you know, take things seriously and try to even guard against the impression of that.
So, based on that comment, what are we going to do? Or what is the board's pleasure? I'm torn, I guess. I mean, I understand it. I feel bad, for the applicant or the appellant, but I'm not sure if we want to start setting a precedent here and giving them a break just because they made a phone call. I think it's an unfortunate circumstance, but if the rest of the board feels strongly about trying to help them out with some type of reduction, I wouldn't oppose that.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of leaning toward not doing that.
Yeah, no, I think I'm on the same page. It's a tough situation for us to, be confronted with here at the table. And it's like, I think sometimes if we go trying to fix things, it just increases the imbalance sometimes too. So
I think if all the information is correct, as Wendy is indicating, if it's unfortunate, I feel bad, but the facts are the facts, and I don't think there's any data or information that was presented that would allow us to make a reduction, even though I agree I would like to, but I don't think that the burden of proof warrants it. So I don't feel strongly that we need to make a reduction, unfortunately. Although I do feel very bad. For the
I feel
gentleman.
bad.
And it was an innocent mistake, but as Wendy says, once you know, you can't unknow.
My opinion as well.
Sorry, go
I
ahead.
agree.
Okay, so do we have a motion? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we not change the valuation for this appeal.
second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, we have a second, and just to be clear, this appeal is number 6, and it's Harrington, correct? 2 Lab Hill Road.
Correct.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. Next item is 7. Barden, Joshua and Michaela Williams. This is a split level, or the single level.
Correct.
Okay, this one was a little complicated.
I may have something for you if you give me 1 minute. Hold on one moment.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. Just amplifying Ken, I think it was a confusing factors here on this one.
Yeah, again, the number one thing for me would be is just to make sure that this property is being properly viewed with the neighbors and other ones. So if they are being mislabeled in any way, then obviously we should correct that. I'm not sure that's the case, but that would be my main objective, is just to make sure that however the town feels is accurate. Similar to the last one, you just want to make sure that it's being treated properly where they don't think it is. I think we just need to make sure that it is, and if it is not, then we make the necessary adjustments.
Totally agree. I think we're at our best when we're just dealing with the facts of the matter.
Agreed. Yeah, what we have in front of us is what we can go by.
I just wanted to just double check on the split level and make sure that we had the sketch correctly and everything. So if you look at the back of her field card, building sub area, and then you look at the sketch, the 2 blue boxes to the right on the back of 81 West Wind Road, you'll see a BAS over an FBM on the left-hand side, which is a first floor over a basement finished. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see another box. I can't even read that. I think it's 26 by 28, but anyway, it's a first floor over a UGR or a garage or an under a garage. So long story short, with all of our little tools that we have here, that Vision supplies and we cohesively use throughout town, if you look at the stories, it says a 1-story because technically the living area is collectively a 1-story, but you can visually see, at least in our humble assessor opinions here, we see it as a split level. But if you see it as raised ranch or something else that the comps I supplied to her were split level comps, and the comps that we had were other colonial ranch, things like that. So we didn't really get to a middle point with that.
Wendy, split level or raised ranch from a town perspective, what, if any, is the difference? Good question.
So split level change was 33%, a raised ranch was 32.
So the same.
Tomato.
So if I'm not sure we were being asked to reclassify it, but if we did reclassify it, it wouldn't really make a significant difference.
Exactly.
And then I think that, other issues are raised, and this is a case where I think that in the appeal today, other properties were brought into conversation, specifically properties surrounding her property, where she didn't feel that condition was being taken into account, which I think that's just kind of a misunderstanding of the assessments. But I didn't have that information in front of me, so I can't even address that. But it may be that she would benefit from some additional information from the assessor about how condition is taken into account on hers. Just I imagine that her neighbors are also assessed with condition taken into account as a factor. I don't think it was true that it was ignored.
And I also just want to make a note that the original appeal, I can only respond to what's in front of me. So the original appeal didn't have anything about rights of ways or
Right.
anything like that. So when I responded with the comps that I thought were more suitable, I don't usually have discussions because sometimes it ends up being more problematic. And I'm not saying that is what happened, but you do have in front of you the email correspondence after a decision. Sometimes people will want more clarification on it. And you can see this transaction here in red, my response to wanting to go to the board. And then there were more things that came up that weren't on the original appeal. So now we're kind of heading toward another place.
This happens a lot, even
And
at
it
the
does. I
table
just wanted to be
here, is
mindful
that
of
people
it.
bring new issues to light, and I think we do our best to try to tackle each one of them as best we can. I'm ready to make a motion to deny the appeal. I will make a motion to deny the appeal, just based on lack of evidence.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
I will second it.
I didn't want to cut off conversation,
Nope.
so I apologize.
No, again, based on the information that I have, I don't have any information to do a reduction.
I agree. I mean, if there is something with the right-of-way, we don't have that in front of us, and that would have to be, I guess you'd have to start the process all over if we deny this. So I guess the only other thought would be, would we table this for the next meeting? But I guess quite frankly, I don't see why we need to.
The appeal window is still open. I can reach back out, and if she wants to appeal on another grounds, that can happen. You can let me know if you want me to do that.
Yeah, I would actually. I think it might make sense to reach out and have another conversation, because it seems like there might be some more information just on the process that might be helpful.
But in the meantime,
my motion stands.
It still stands to deny.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Okay, that was number 7, right? So we're on number 8.
We're getting there.
Yep. Okay, this is
Custom.
Our custom house over there in Mittendorf Way, over there in Matunic. So, I guess this really, in my eyes, is not really a custom house. I think it's been misclassified. So, what are we, I guess the question would be, what would the value come down to if it wasn't,
Yeah, and I think Wendy, I think you did tell us a little bit about what the impact might be. Yeah. Because because we had a couple of these cases about the custom, and I think that, of course, I've already kind of showed some of my cards about what I'm thinking about this. in some cases, it might be that instead of putting in custom as style, we put in another, we put in cape. In the case of a property like this, which doesn't seem to be a luxury property, but we might also then consider other adjustments to grade if we have a property that's, kind of, modest in some respects, but of higher quality than typical spec-built Cape Cods or whatever the colonials. And I imagine you may feel the same.
We
So-
can do whatever the pleasure of the board
Yeah.
is. If we need to override to a dollar amount assessment, we can do that. But just to answer the question from previously, if we were just to go in and make a style change from custom to Cape, and that's your, just an average Cape, the value decrease is 682,000. So it would bring the total assessed value from 2.121100 down to 1,439,100. And then if you think that's too low, we can still leave custom and then override it at a dollar amount due to an ABR decision. That's also available.
My feeling on that is I think we're all in agreement that there needs to be a reduction in that classification. What I'll struggle with, not knowing enough about the property, is if this 1,439 is the correct number or it's not the correct number. I don't know if I'm going to have the ability to come up with the number today as we're here, but I definitely agree that we need to make a substantial reduction because I don't believe that the market value is correct. So I think it needs to go down, but is it 1.4, is it 1.6? That I don't know. So I don't know how we deal with that aspect of it.
No, what I'm looking for in my notes is that we had an indication during the appeal of what the construction costs were. So as a check on a reality check, if we simply made the one change and it drops it to 1.4, how would that compare to like land value? We have land value of 600,000, but I can't find in my notes or in the materials what the construction. I thought I made a note of it, but just land plus construction costs. If that approximates the 1.4, that's just another.
I think they said the bill cost was 6.
Oh,
I think that's what they said. The bill cost was 616.
thank you. Yeah. So yeah, like it's just this is not a like
There it is right here.
It's a little bit of a crude method. Thank you. Yeah, a little bit of a crude method, but the improvements are valued at 1.5 million in Vision, and they cost 600,000 plus to construct, and I think that's the discrepancy we should take a look at.
Yeah, we're not touching it.
Also making sure that it's that. So for example, let's just say we did the 1.4, and then all of the neighbors around there are at 1.7, and they're similar.
Yeah.
So that's where I think I'd like to fine tune that a little
Yeah.
bit, or find a way. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. That's just where I would struggle with to come up with the number, and even what you're suggesting here, Brad, that is helpful, and that may be 100% accurate. I would just want to kind of verify that it would be. If that makes sense.
Mostly, I guess I see it as a gesture that a change would be warranted, and it wouldn't put us out of whack with the kind of the reality. But maybe that we could take a look at if we changed the style to Cape Cod, but upgraded the grade to or something like that. And
That would be fair. We've done that in the past. Right now, the grade is a good. Had I been the assessor at the time, I'm not sure I would have had the grade be a 6. So if you if you want to do something with the grade, you can. Right now, with just the Cape, leaving it at a good is that 1.4391. If you were to bring it to a good plus 10, and I actually have a breakdown of what that is if you need to know what is a good plus 10 for materials. Is that helpful?
Well, that would be, because again, to
All
me, it is new, it is good material, so that it's not custom, but it's still an improvement, and I think that I'm assuming that should have some reflection.
I'm going to send this down. This is Vision's quality grading guidelines. We use this every day for everybody in town. Good is architecturally attractive buildings constructed with very good quality materials and workmanship throughout, high quality interior and built-in deluxe heating, very good grade plumbing and lighting. When you start getting to a 7 and an 8, the highest being a 10, now it's buildings generally having an excellent architectural style and design, constructed with the finest materials, superior quality interior built-ins, deluxe heating, very good plumbing, and then 9 and 10 would be the highest. So, typically, you wouldn't want to touch grades outside of a reval cycle. So that's something we'll look at, again, leading up to the full reval, because there was a lot of missed opportunity from the last full. So we're always calibrating, and I'll be honest, some towns will wipe off like external obsolescence, all of that. Every reval, we don't do that, and I'm not looking to do that. So if you had made a decision 10 years ago on a a noise, it's probably going to stay there unless there's something else that we discover or undiscover, just so you're aware of that.
That makes sense, and I think that my attempt there was to try to find a compromise between a massive spread, but if the more I think that the more we tinker, the worse we can make things sometimes too. So
it ends up being that way. Like you had mentioned, splitting hairs. We're looking at it from a mass appraisal eagle view standpoint. Is this reasonable? Versus once you start getting into the we start getting into the weeds. That's where it gets tricky, because we're only given the tools that we have, and they're almost broad for a reason. Yeah. So that's what we have to work with.
Yeah, so I think, I don't even think good plus 10 really sounded applicable in this case. So, but I just don't know what other tools we have. I would say change it to Cape Cod and let the chips fall. It's kind of maybe the best we can do.
When we're talking about changing to Cape Cod, that's just on the improvements? It doesn't touch the land value, is that correct? When we're talking about changing to Cape Cod or the grade, that is just touching the improvements? It leaves the land?
Correct. If you were to make a decision on a whole value, let's just say you just I want it to be 1.6 because I feel like that's appropriate. Yeah. If I go in and I override that in our system, that does deviate collectively to everything, land, outbuildings. So I'm not going to tell you which way I prefer, but I think, dealing with the building tables, with the style and the grade that would be the first option I would take if this were in front of me. There are other options. I'm just letting you know, with custom being such a broad descriptor, sometimes it's it's a cape, like you're saying. Is it a little bit more of a special cape? The only other tool we have right now is the style, which is a conventional. It's somewhere in the middle of the two. You could, in theory, keep the grade, go with the conventional, and that gets you to a 1.5158 without having to touch land and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's really what she thinks it is, and she's argued that. Feel free to come up to the mic, please, and partake in the discussion. You've done a wonderful job and done your research, so I want you to have your due process. Go ahead.
My question is on the grade. Is the grades that you just read off, are there any other grades, or is that where it starts?
There are no other grades, yeah.
It starts at
1 to a 10, that's all across town.
Okay.
And because things change over time, a lot of the new, and I'm not saying for you, I'm just saying just hypothetically in general, what we're seeing when we go out into the field, the materials are much different than they were from the materials of the past. I mean, I'm discovering new things all of the time. So I might think something is very, very good or high quality, but maybe, at the time, it's the same style, same look, but the material, and that matters. And there's all different tables behind this. You start pulling back the curtain, it's horrifying, but there's Marshall stuff building tables. I looked at all of that before we even went into the reval to make sure the cost made sense for our area. So just all things being said, you know, we really try to stay conservative and be really mindful historically in this town, and I'm not looking to change that footprint, but this is mass appraisal, and everybody knows about SK, and they're here, and they're building it all and buying it all.
Wendy, can I ask the question of, with a property like this that is, you know, somewhat new and whatnot, what would your process be, regardless of what we do with like the next reevaluation? Would you physically try to go to the property and determine what you feel with it? Let's take out the custom to Cape, just, and then would you assign the good plus 10, whatever that would be?
Yes, so we did, we meaning the deputy and myself, we printed out every field card for every custom in town for this reval cycle. We touched every single one, because sometimes you just have to look, and like I kind of made a joke in the beginning, the more I delved in, the more I was just chasing my tail, because it was really very difficult to compare apples to apples, because when you're dealing with custom, it's custom to that homeowner. Now, as far as internal, I'd be more than happy to do, if the homeowner is okay with it, we can make a field inspection, and we can go inside and we can do all that, but I think it's really up to what you'd like us to do.
I don't know if this is allowed or you would agree, but I would say let's change it to a Cape and agree with that, and then put the onus on the town to go and determine good, bad, or indifferent. If the owner would give permission to have that now, then I think that solves our problem.
So
Is that-
what is our
If
grade?
you want to drop the grade, I'm not looking, I just so you know my temperament, I'm not looking to make any grade changes outside of a revaluation cycle unless something's egregious. So I will be looking, just so everyone, to the full reval, a complete grade style, you know, I don't want to use the word overhaul, but more clarity, more tools, more options. But, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we're still dealing with COVID. So, you know, resources being said, we are looking the next statistical and full to lead up to that. And that's the purpose of the reval. It's a complete clean slate every time.
And just to be clear, what is the timeline then for the statistic? Is the next one statistical and then a full?
Yes.
Correct. It's every 3 years. So year-end 24 is the statistical. So 3 years from then, 24, 5, 6, 27, and then 2030. So I know
So by
it'll be here before we
2030,
know it.
we'll have it all cleaned up then, right?
Yes, in theory.
And our grade is, I don't have the paper in front
It
of me.
says good.
Good,
Which is, I think, a number, split. They have a code.
It's a 6. We have it as good. Architecturally attractive buildings constructed with very good quality materials and workmanship throughout, high quality interior finish and built-in features, deluxe heating system, and very good grade plumbing and lighting. The next step up is a good plus 10 or a good plus 20. So unfortunately, the good status doesn't give you the extra wiggle room. If you go to a 4 or 5, it's an average plus 10 plus 20. A good is a good. And then you kind of go up to plus 10 plus 20
Based
again.
on what you read, I don't see a big,
Yeah,
think that
I
good is,
agree.
I don't, and sitting where I'm sitting, I wouldn't be inclined to go fiddling with grade. And I think we accomplish a lot by just addressing the custom versus Cape Cod question. So similar to what Ken was just alluding to, I think we just change it to Cape Cod and let the assessor can continue to do their work, their good work, and still stay in touch with the homeowners too.
Ken has a motion on the floor, correct? You made a motion, I think. It's been so long, I can't remember.
Not per se. My thought was to change the grade to a Cape, but allow the town to determine the grade, and maybe to set an appointment. I don't know if that's possible or not, to do that sooner rather than later.
I'd be more than happy to do it, but I'll tell you right now, 99.99999, I'm probably not going to change your grade.
So the grade would be...
I'd be more than happy to make a field visit. I think it's accurate.
You think it's accurate? Okay.
I've actually been to this property years when it was maybe half done. It was one of my first properties I visited. Beautiful home and a beautiful location.
Okay, then I would make a motion that we change is it the grade? The style from custom to Cape.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there any, do we have a second?
I second that.
We have a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Aye.
motion passes. Thank you.
And just to keep you apprised, there'll be an abatement. It has to go before council first, so I would say give it between 30 to 60 days to hit your account. We're pretty quick, so probably more toward the 30-day, okay? And you'll receive a letter.
Next item is 17 Robenheimer. That was Barber's Pond, another custom situation.
I kind of think we're dealing with a similar situation here. I think that we have to kind of address the question of we actually have a real estate appraisal that was provided, which we seldom do. But I think we should take it seriously. If I can, so I don't think that the real estate appraisal was perfect. I'll just offer my 2 cents on the appraisal and things that I noticed in the appraisal. There's kind of a, the comparables that were used were all, kind of clustered at a low end. They're all kind of inferior to the subject. They're all older builds. So but I imagine it's hard to find a data set that fits this home well, locationally, in terms of the age. There's a condition adjustment kind of blanket $40,000 adjustment applied to the 3 comparables, and they're all of different ages. So one of them is significant, 121 years old. So, I found that to be pretty much a blunt instrument. And the other thing that's impacting the appraisal is an adjustment for the location, the waterfront location. It's a plus 250,000. There's no information in the appraisal to support the adjustment, so it leaves me just wondering if that was an arbitrary, lump sum thrown on. And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot in the appraisal to support that adjustment. So it's not a perfect appraisal, but I think it does though give us an indication that the assessment. I think the assessment's at like 2.1 million. But that the assessment is, higher than certainly higher than the market value concluded here. And other than those 2 caveats, I see, a pretty reasonable analysis, something for us to take into consideration. But I think without getting too deep into that, I think that maybe they didn't dispute the land value, so the question of the land value adjustment in the appraisal is not really as relevant. It might just be worth looking into whether we adjust the style. It is. Is it conventional? I did it.
I'm going to read you the definition for conventional, which is even grayer than custom.
So the subject is custom. Am I right?
The subject
right.
is custom. They provided a comp with that it was a conventional.
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
For 72 Morningstar Lane, and the subject is 50 Morningstar Lane. The definition by Vision for conventional is an older type of house with no particular architectural design. Story heights generally range from 1.5 to 2.5. So we have a good amount of these on the books, and I personally am trying to stay away from this moving forward.
It seems like it almost is when you have like these gables and stuff. That's what they're like.
That's
Oh,
kind
okay,
of
conventional.
what the
Subjective.
Vision does. We went back and forth on what we thought customs and conventional were between myself and the project manager. We agreed to disagree.
Right.
Yeah, it's like a fallback, and this is why I'm thinking for the next reval, we need to have a little bit more options for style that isn't such drastic swings in value.
Right, and I think
so we'll do that for the next reval. To me,
custom, just given the massive base cost difference, custom really should be reserved for properties that are costing $600+ a square foot and in excess to build. In this case, I think we also got the construction cost for this one. Yeah, we were going to pass around the packet. It's tough, the owner is, putting in some work as general contractor, so sometimes, the actual materials cost and labor costs are not necessarily reflective of what it would cost to be built in the market, right? You'd want some sort of
I think we have it, yeah, we had a $750,000 total, I believe.
Yeah.
$750,000 total bill cost, I believe, is what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that was labor and materials.
Yeah, so you might consider, there might be a premium or a factor applied to just consider what, like what it would cost to, like an entrepreneurial or builder profit allowance. But I think mostly what that does for us is tell us that the appraised value of the building at 1.7 million might be inaccurate and high. So, and I think that's demonstrated by the construction costs, and that's also demonstrated in the appraisal that was provided. So, I mean, I would just want to know the impact if we kicked this out of custom and put it towards, and I don't know what it would be, colonial or conventional or some alternative.
Their comp was conventional. I'm not going to speak for them whether they think it's that or not, but I'm going to assume that if that was their comp, that they probably are leaning toward conventional. So just so you know, because I know you're already going to ask what the difference is, the swing between a custom and a conventional. I haven't touched anything other than the style. The comp for 72 Morningstar Lane at a conventional, is this the same neighborhood? Same neighborhood. Total parcel value appraised at 1.3489. 50 Morningstar. The subject right now is a custom at 2.132. If I were to change it to a conventional, it brings that down to 1.3216, which is very similar to their conventional comp neighbor.
That's the total.
Total
So
appraised
basically
value.
The house would be less 230.
Correct, about 1.1115.
How many square feet is this house again, as far as heated conditioned space?
3,413. The comp is 3,074 square feet.
3,114.
I think we're all in agreement that we're going to change again, like the custom, but to where it's going to fall. That's where, does anyone have a strong opinion on where it should fall from a price perspective?
Oh, I'm just looking at the size of the house, and I'm just basing this, it's hard, it's hard to come up with a real square foot number. I'm going to use 300 a square foot just because, I mean, things are more, the stuff that I did was more than that, but I mean, I think 300 based on when this was done is a reasonable bill, so, pardon?
Built, it was 2022.
Yeah, so I mean, you're looking at like, around, 900 and change for the, for the build on the house, plus the cost, plus the value of the land. So that brings us up to right about where that would be if we do change that classification.
So what's that number, Dave?
Number of,
When you add the land, which I don't have.
well, the land was 230, right? So if you take 230,000 for the land, and then if you take 314.
I think the land I have is 299.5.
Okay, so 300 for the land, then if you take, hang on a second, let me just. I mean, if you come up, if you use $300 a square foot, which I think is a little on the conservative side, you come up with around 934,000. So, I mean, we're in that range, even if you want to increase that a little bit.
So everything's gesturing towards around where the appraisal came in at, or
Close,
or
yeah.
with this if you make the adjustment, it's 1.32, I think you said, and yeah, everything's gesturing and clustering around that ballpark, which puts it pretty consistent with the neighbor, which is also in the same ballpark. Sorry.
Okay, I'm fine with that ballpark, I just don't know how to figure out the exact amount. If we do it by formula, or we do it by,
I feel like the best thing to do here is just to have Wendy make the adjustment and call it conventional, accept where it lands, and move on. I mean, I hate to be super blunt and simplistic, but I feel like, again, on the principle that the less we tinker, the better, then that's what I would say.
I'm in agreement with Brad. I was just, I was just looking at another method just to see how the numbers add up.
they're pretty comparable. So,
Yeah, so I don't want to make it complicated either, so.
Yeah, so I'll make the motion, as we would just we would ask the, so we find in favor of the appellant, and we ask you to make the change in value based on changing the style to conventional from custom. I don't have the actual number in front of me, but
That'll be 1,321,600, so there'll be an abatement issued for the difference.
yep. Yeah, so moved.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. And do we have a second?
I will second the motion.
Do we have any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Okay. See, 20 and 25 were not here. 28. Tony Fiore, yeah, we're all set with that. Thank you. The piece of land on Beach Drive. Well, it certainly doesn't appear to be a buildable lot. So, the question is, how are we going to come up with a valuation?
Could you, Wendy, I know you made one adjustment already. Could you just kind of walk us through, you made an adjustment to some factor based on a neighboring
Yes.
parcel?
Let
I
me
just
bring
wanna-
up the parcel and I'll show you what I did.
That's like a start.
Good idea.
All right. So this is the subject parcel here, map 90-1, lot 123 on Pondview Drive. Lot 129, bear with me a moment here. So when I started looking at the condition factors for the nearest vacant parcels, I didn't have to go too far because this abutter here on lot 129, total parcel value 271.5. They do have a condition factor of 0.50, and they have topo, wetlands, all this adjustments being said, and this is also coded as vacant, potentially developable. Whether it is or not, that's not on the table right now. There's notes here saying that out of the 5.82 acres, 3.82 is wetland. So just as a basis, again, I haven't seen this letter till after I decisioned and abated this subject. So you may want to consider this letter after I'm done here. So the subject parcel, lot 123, the condition factor was 0.70, again, wetlands, and there wasn't already an adjustment factored in. That normally probably would have been somewhere in like a 1.52 or higher. I mean, we won't get into what ifs, but what we have right now, I felt it at least appropriate to lower the condition factor for the subject parcel to match that abutter for the wetlands. And I did that. So I gave the abatement and lowered the condition factor from a 0.70 to a 0.50, and that brought the value down from 311.3 to 222.5. So now at this point, now that we've got another discovery with this letter, it'll be, we can table that condition factor down to, I'll tell you, the lowest I've ever seen it is .10, and those lots are like in the ocean. So we can talk about a reduction with the condition factor, I think, with this. Like, we've handled it before with, like, without coming arbitrarily, like, some random percentage change or some random, maybe it's correct value. I think it might be appropriate to start there, just as a suggestion. So let me pull that up, and then we can go from there.
While you're pulling that up, I think I have a similar thought. So we have some new information, and we can factor this in. It may be that there's more of a process that needs to take place between the property owner and the town to sufficiently prove their case. And I know in the past, and this is not my opinion, but I know in the past there's been concerning cases like this where the property owner claims that it's not buildable, and then a decade later, new technology comes along and they're claiming it's buildable. And I know I just expressed that as, like, I know it's been a concern in the past before when it comes to appeals like this, because I don't think we don't have this sufficient expertise to, like, declare a lot unbuildable. But I do think that there's new information to consider, and where a different kind of adjustment would be warranted.
And as of now, like, in the future's the future, we can't predict that. So I do think we just need to make sure we're focusing on now, if it would be buildable now. That's what I would want to know from you, Wendy, is if, based on the information we have, would a building permit be issued?
So I can't answer that. Like I mentioned before, I'm not saying I prefer either. I don't. It would just, I'd like to defer now that I have this to have a discussion with the building inspector. So I can't answer that question now. I don't know if you want to table that, and then I can give that to you. That can happen outside of this. As far as the assessment, I'm not sure if you recall last season or the season before, and I can't think of where it was for the life of me, but it was unbuildable lots have come through, and the lowest condition factor I've seen is a .10. If we were to do that, if you decided, it's not buildable for our purposes to link an assessment to it, if we were to change that to unbuildable status, meaning a really low condition factor for it being so wet you couldn't build on it, that would bring that assessed value to 44.4. There's really no lower number. Yeah, but you've got a .5, a .10. You're somewhere in there. I just wanted to let you know we can handle it that way.
No, we have some. We have enough evidence to, just based on what we're looking at, but also the engineering letter, to suggest there's significant constraints to development. If it's at all possible, it's most likely not developable. It's certainly almost impossible. That's kind of in terms of the probabilistic, just based on what listening to Mr. Fiore. So, but I think maybe what my suggestion would be, we would address it by adjusting that factor. And then if the plot process needs to continue to play out.
Yeah, the designation of it being buildable or not won't change the assessed value, so we can extract that. And I will tell you now, I'm probably leaning on me as a humble assessor. I don't mind changing it. It's just, it is something someone has to live with. I just need to run that by two other stakeholders, and we can do that separately from today.
So do we need to table that? Let the town investigate that and have that on our next agenda, or we can just let that fall where it falls? How do you guys feel about that?
And thank you, Ms. Sang. She doesn't miss a beat. If you look at your meeting minutes from January 9, 2020, I'm like, this came up last year. I usually shred things, but this does ring a bell, and there it is. If you look at your meeting minutes from January 9, 2025, and you go to appeal number 17, obviously different plat, different lot, different appellant, but they hadn't provided any more supplemental data to support that it was deemed unbuildable. And from my discussion from the building official, the board, the bar that's been set, not from me, is an appraisal or an environmental survey. So I just need to double check to see if standards have changed between, because things do change. So that's one of the reasons. I just want to confer with the building official before I make that change. Unless you feel comfortable making the change here, then it would supersede that.
I don't feel we need to make the change here today. I'd rather have you folks investigate it as you see fit. I guess the question really is, do we want to see this on the next agenda as old business, which I'm inclined to say yes.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
No, I agree. I think that we could table it for the next meeting, give the town time to investigate and consider the new information, the engineering letter, and then we can
I would
come-
appreciate that. This
Yes.
did come in after I decisioned it, so.
So I'll make the motion, and I think what we can do then is you'll have some new information about how the town responds to the letter, and then if we want to revisit and want to make an adjustment as a board, we can do that next time. But we'll give it to the next meeting. That's great. So I would make a motion to table until the next meeting, to give the town time to consider the new information and present to us, the town's response.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have any other, do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Correct. The letter came through after the decision, so we're gonna, as a town, I've got to check with the building official, just make sure everything makes sense, and then we'll come back and have a input from what the town feels collectively, and then they can make the decision.
You might not need to. If Wendy, building, and you come to a consensus, and this information is enough to satisfy them, it doesn't need to come.
If you're in agreement with what they come up with.
Oh, so you'll look at it, Jamie will make a response to you, and then you'll come up with a number. If I'm comfortable with that or whatever, then I don't have to bother you guys. That's correct.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll come back
In
and
any
let them
case-
know what the town felt comfortable doing, and they'll adopt it or not, I guess,
And
right?
it's on our agenda anyway for the next meeting.
Yeah,
regardless, and we'll just you'll inform us on what happened, and we can say, oh, we like that, good.
And
we
make
don't like it.
make an official motion to adopt it, and then at that point, you
Yeah.
receive, the abatement and all this other stuff, which I foresee probably happening.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. I appreciate it.
Any other items to be discussed this afternoon? Hearing none, do I have a...
I have an idea.
Yes.
Do we want to set a date for the next meeting, or do we want to do that offline?
I would prefer to set it now. I
Just
would,
because
unless
we're
you
all
guys
here,
wanna-
and it might be easier
Yeah,
to
I'd
just
rather
take
do
a
it, yeah.
brief
Yeah,
minute.
that's a great idea, Wendy.
All right, let me just take a peek at my spreadsheet to see when the next set needs to be heard by within our time frame. Just give me one moment.
Are there more appeals that we'll hear? Is it like any hints about what is it like 320?
No, nothing like that. And actually, if you
Yeah.
want, we could even have that discussion if you
I
want to.
gotta plan my vacations
if
out
you
for
want,
the
it
2020.
sounds
Make sure we're
like
not
right
off of
now
that one,
that
right?
there's no one group I don't foresee coming through. They're all individuals. So we already saw what this type of agenda, time-wise, we started at 9:30 and we're about to wrap it up. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if you want to cap each agenda, to 5, 7, 10, you tell me.
I think it's nice if we're out of here by noon, ideally. I think that fits with my work schedule.
Tighten it up too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we allow
Okay.
a lot more.
So we want to leave it at 7 on any given
think
agenda, more or less?
We can try 7 and then we'll see
Okay.
how it goes.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, with it being a reval, I did anticipate more appeals, obviously, than a
Right.
non-reval year, so that's why we're starting a little early, so that it's not like this overwhelming,
Yes,
large
no, yeah,
agendas, leading up into like next summer.
Much
so.
as I love meeting, I think we're better off just having another meeting if need be.
Yep.
And keep it capped so we're focused here until, yeah, I agree, 12 is kind of the witching hour.
Yeah, because eventually my brain starts to, I mean, we get presented a lot of information too, so I just want to give everyone a fair shake of having my brain,
Good point.
operating.
So are we looking like October, November-ish, you thinking? That soon?
Yes, I think somewhere in that range makes sense. There was one or two folks from this agenda that said something like, I can meet after October 29th and before Thanksgiving. So I'm not sure if we want to try to accommodate that one request and try to come up with something in the middle versus having one in October and one in November. I think we might be able to get away with like an early November meeting. Unless you want to run one in October and November, and then that person that had asked to meet within that time frame, I could just make sure they're on that November.
I mean, I'd rather try to meet once unless we have an overwhelming amount of appellants. So if we can do, if you think November's going to work.
I think so.
Then I would.
I'm going to be away from the 8th to the 15th.
How does November 5th look? Just on a random.
So I'm
Wide
on,
open.
I'm on the state real estate appraisal board, and they meet at the first
fancy.
Wednesday of every month. So I wouldn't be able to meet on the 5th, but I could.
4th? Oh, that's election day, or is it election?
Yeah, I'm available the remainder of that week if there's another date other than election day that works. I know I don't know, Thursday.
How does maybe we won't worry about the one appellant. At some point, they'll make it through, or send somebody in their stead. Do we want to do something maybe mid to later October? I think that might be better. And then if we don't meet in November and we gotta, that it sounds like that's what might happen.
We could do it like October 15th, October 22nd.
Okay, same
October,
here.
yeah.
So why don't we stick with what we know?
Fine.
Yeah, she did say the 29th. If that works, that would.
Me too.
To my knowledge, I'm available on the 29th.
Same here.
How about for yourself, Alice? What do we look like?
I'm good until 2:30.
Okay, so.
Hopefully we can.
The 29th, October 29th, do we want to start at 9:30 again, or is 9 a little bit better for y'all?
Whatever you guys are fine with.
9:30
Doesn't
works
matter.
for me. We get in at 8:30 and just with
can
tech
prepare.
stuff
Yeah,
and all that.
9:30 is fine.
9:30
Okay,
is
so
great.
9:30 on October 29th.
And
will
are we
be the
doing
next
Halloween
meeting.
costumes on that for that hearing, or are we?
If you come on Halloween, we'll have a gift for you in the assessment department, and for all of those who want to see us, come on in.
I generally speaking don't care, I'd like to give people, but I think we do need to set a timer, just so people.
Okay.
We go over, we go
Do we-
over, but at least then it's.
Every time we're doing this, we get a little bit better, right? Because this is new for all the
It's just a
boards.
discussion point.
Yeah, at least
Will we
everybody's aware.
have,
We
we're-
did today, but I think sometimes.
I think
if
I-
I was sitting there and you guys, well, you said 10 minutes and people are half an hour, I would be upset.
do we want to run this clock? Okay, so we'll, on the 29th, hey, we don't know
Yeah.
until we try it. If it works,
Yeah.
it works, we use it. If you don't like it, we don't. And you always have the option to let them go a little more.
Yeah, and sometimes it goes long because Brad's asking questions, or so
If
like
it does, then it goes.
that's on
to
me.
discussion.
Yeah,
at
you
least-
could give everybody another 5
At least
at
we have
that
a
point and make it
conscientious-
collective.
It's just for everyone to be
Yeah.
aware of the time because it can drag on.
Otherwise, it's just too much of a general discussion, that's all.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
Again, we don't have to adhere to it, but I think it needs to be
Okay.
there
I'll-
for expectations.
Yeah,
I'll be
and try to
ready-
deadline
I'll be
too, 'cause
ready with
sometimes
this
it can
timer.
get.
Just a thought, I'm not, it's not a criticism.
No, I think it's fair.
You guys doing a great job.
So-
Discussed today was needed. I mean, it wasn't, I didn't want to cut anybody off.
All right.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Mm-hmm.
We have a motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion passes. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.